Good afternoon, and welcome to the June 17th Legislative Affairs Subcommittee report. Would all members rise and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk.
Roll call of the members of the subcommittee. Councilor Novoselsky is absent. Councilor Powers is absent. Councilor Rizzo. Here. Councilor Zambudo is absent. Councilor Bonasso. Here. And Chairman Keefe. Here. Quorum is present.
Thank you. So taking up the first item today, we have an ordinance further amending the senior work-off abatement program relative to eligibility. Would any members wish to speak on this? If I may, from the chair. Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It doesn't appear that...
Pardon me, I wanted to also give you, I don't know if you received this from Dana Bragenfort, just some of his understandings of how this will help. If you had a chance to read this, I apologize.
Well, that's what I was doing when you called on me. I was just kind of looking at it and looking at it from a historical perspective, and I think it makes sense, you know, to disqualify people based on limits that were going back to the year 2000 just doesn't seem fair. So I'm in agreement with this. It seems like a simple and reasonable modification, so I'll support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rizzo. And as mentioned, Dana Bragenfort, Chairman of Revere Board of Assessors, had submitted a letter that will be entered into the record, basically talking about how the established standards have raised from an average income of $45,000 for single applicants and $55,000 for married, and it has now since increased to $73,250 for single and $89,500 for married. And obviously the reason for this was over the last few years, because of the increase in wages and some people's pensions, they were ineligible because their income had raised above the limit, and they were finding it difficult to get 50 good applicants for both the water and sewer reduction and also the real estate abatement. So this is going to make a lot more sense for the residents of Revere now, and hopefully they'll be able to fully fill those 50 spots on each side. So I think everyone would be in favor if we could take the roll.
So this is on the senior work-off property tax abatement program relative to eligibility. Councilor Novoselsky is absent. Councilor Powers is absent. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Guanasso? Yes. And Chairman Keefe?
Yes.
Yes, this ordinance will be forwarded to the full City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. And the next item up for bid is ordinance relative to trash collection. Any members wishing to speak on the new trash ordinance? Mr. Mara, would you like to speak on the trash ordinance?
I'll speak to whatever extent anyone has any questions. I think the ordinance is fairly self-explanatory. A lot of it mirrors the existing ordinance, but it is updated to define a lot of the terms that are used in the ordinance. It seems that over the past number of years, a lot of new methods, a lot of new mechanisms are being used in our trash collection process. And really the primary motivation to revise the ordinance was to accommodate to bring our ordinance in sync with the distribution of the blue trash carts. As many of you know, the trash carts were issued last October, and eventually and ultimately it's the city's objective that only city-issued trash carts be used for trash collection. No more plastic bags on the ground. No various assortment of different types of trash receptacles. So the issuance of the trash carts was step one to that. It has not been enforced simply because there was no ordinance to enforce it under. So now the new ordinance takes into account the blue trash carts, the recyclable carts, and all of the processes that between Department of Public Works and Department of Health we all came together. We must have had at least a dozen different meetings on it to try and make sure that we could have as comprehensive but as fair an ordinance as we can. After its adoption by the City Council, there will be a phase-in period where people will be warned if they're not using only their blue trash carts, but eventually that will become that will be subject to enforcement by the Department of Inspectional Services, and it will all fall under the 40U program in terms of issuing violations and the right to appeal violations.
Thank you, Councilor. Thank you, Mr. Mara. We have Councilor Zambudo and then Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, I'm going to ultimately support the new ordinance. What I really need to know is how much education are we going to put out there? Now, I know, these, as far as I'm concerned, these trash containers are terrific, and if used properly, they're going to solve a lot of problems, especially the rodent problem. But I've already seen people overflowing them, not closing the lids. That you might as well just let them put trash bags on the street if we're going to do that. So the enforcement has to be strict, but before that, we need education, and a lot of education. And there's a lot of new people in the city of different cultures. And so whatever way we have to reach these people, they have to understand that we've spent a lot of money to try to make this thing work and try to make a good quality of life for everybody in the city. But everybody has to abide by it. But I'm worried that we're not educating the people enough. And I'm hoping that a big part of this next push, along with the ordinance, is going to be education.
Right, Councilor, through the chair, the educational aspect of this has been ongoing since the distribution of the trash carts. When the trash carts were issued, there were flyers that were attached to every single one of those trash carts that had all of the breakdown. We agree that it's not enough, but it's a matter of getting word out there. And now, after the council presumably adopts this ordinance, there will be further notification throughout the city that the ordinance is now being adopted. When the time comes for strict enforcement, again, there will be notification of that. Whether the Department of Inspectional Services goes through a sort of a warning process where they'll issue warnings, that is still subject to discussion. We're trying as many different ways as possible to get out news to people of just what the rules of trash disposal are in this city. There's the trash app that's available that the people who do have it love it, but it's getting people to know about it. I think something like 600 people have downloaded it, and it's a great thing, but there's like 16,000 people that we want to download it.
Those are the technically savvy people, which are great, but I think we need videos. I think we need videos in all kinds of languages, especially targeting our newest neighbors and whatever way is the best way to educate them. But we need a lot of different ways of education.
Right.
It makes me angry. I'm not angry, but sad to see the lids up and the overflowing trash. And I'm saying, boy, this defeats the whole system here, all this hard work and money. And I know we can get there, but it's going to take a lot of things. And I think video imaging is one of the best ways to reach people, because it doesn't require as much language. When you're illustrated, the power of example as to what to do, and you keep showing that, I think no matter what language you speak, you're going to see what's expected of you.
I mean, all of the social media aspects are considered video as well. Unfortunately, I think we encounter a reality that no matter how much notice you issue, the challenge is getting people to acknowledge or abide by the notice that you're giving out.
Well, I think once we've educated the people enough, then you got to drop the hammer.
Well, that's where enforcement comes in.
Enforcement has got to be there. Once we feel comfortable that we've done everything we could to educate as many people as we can, then the enforcement has to be absolutely strict. Because if we allow this overflowing trash, we might as well just have burnt that money instead of buying these trash barrels.
One thing that the 40U program made very clear to people is that there's nothing that educates like a violation of some sort. Now, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
But we
that
want to
is-
be fair about
Yeah.
it, too. We want to get them to a point where we feel we've really gone above and beyond with the education. Then it's time to crack down. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. At the outset, let me just say, I was one that really didn't like the idea of just broad brushing with all these brand new barrels across the city. I think there were a lot of people, and I'm sure you guys must have heard it, and I heard it from countless people, that they already had barrels. They've got barrels in their backyards now, that they were doing the right thing, but yet now they're told that instead of putting out their 2 barrels maybe that they would have had, they get 1 barrel in a single-family home, 2 barrels in a 2-family home. They have the privilege of buying another barrel if they deem that necessary. And I quite honestly equated that not as much as going after the rat problem as implementing kind of a backdoor trash fee. That's the way that a lot of people, I think, that I've talked to view that. They've now had to take their $50 or $75 barrels and put them in the back. But that's neither here nor there. You guys have made the decision to implement this policy. That's, you know, that's out of the city council's hands right now. The question I have is on page 7, and we have this overflow trash you can drop off at the city yard on the 2nd and 4th Saturday, and it says that the Department of Public Works may establish a reasonable fee for the disposal of overflow trash. So that doesn't clearly lay out what that is. Is that just subject to whoever's working that day, or is there going to be down the road a fee for people to drop off their trash down there?
I think the reason, first of all, to get to your question about the people that do have barrels, and, you know, unfortunately, when you pass an ordinance or when you create an ordinance, there are some people who are abiding by the rules, and they're doing all of the right things, and yet a new ordinance comes into place, and it implicates the people who are already abiding the rules. And that's just sometimes the natural fallout of any kind of a change in an ordinance. But people who do have those barrels, we are encouraging people, you know, don't get rid of them. Use those for your overflow trash. Use those for your yard clippings, because those barrels can be used for the overflow trash on the so-called trash holidays, the 6 times during the year, when the non-city issued trash barrels would be collected. So we don't want people to throw them away. They're very useful. In terms of your specific question, Councilor, with regard to the possibility of a fee for the Saturday, the semi-monthly Saturday overflow trash disposal, we did not include a fee. There is not any plan to include a fee. The reason that's in there is that if, as time goes by, the Department of Public Works finds that this is becoming burdensome, or that it is something that far exceeds anything that is anticipated in terms of people bringing their trash, the ordinance at least leaves the opening for the Department of Public Works to consider whether or not a fee is necessary. So it's more of a safety hatch than it is a prediction.
Well, I would only say this. If it's not necessary now, then, I mean, ordinances change all the time. Administrations come up, they amend ordinances all the time. Why have it in? I mean, I'd feel more comfortable not to see it there and just tell people that they can go down and dispose of their trash. If you find that it is not working and a fee is required, that just seems very ambiguous to me, that they may establish a fee when we don't currently have one. I don't know why we can't strike that language. I mean, you know, like I say, people right now, you know, a lot of people don't like the fact that they've got to, you know, I know, and it's not a bad recommendation, Bob, you know, use it as some overflow trash, I guess, depending upon what the trash is. I don't know that I'd want any type of food or anything like that to sit around for only 6-time-a-year collections. So, you know, I mean, if it's grass clippings, it's one thing, but depending upon what else it might be, I think it could present a little bit of a problem. With respect to paying more, I mean, they've got to pay for a second barrel. Now there's a chance they might pay to bring an overflow. I feel more comfortable to have that stricken. I don't know what my colleagues want, but that would be my recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
I'll ask the rest of the members. I wouldn't have a problem with it either, especially since it's not, there isn't a fee being currently implemented, with the exception of items like TVs or cans of paint. Those are going to be an additional fee because those are sometimes hazardous materials, and we have to pay to dispose of those.
Section 2, Part B.
I'll ask some of my other colleagues, and I'll come back to you, Councilor Zambudo, but Councilor Guanasso.
I have a couple of questions, namely regarding a tutorial for people to use a bin to dispose of their trash. You pick up the lid, you put the trash in, there's your tutorial. How much do you need to know? And what country don't you know? You pick it up, you throw it in. That's just a brief observation. My other observation is that the bin is pretty big. And I use like less than a half of the barrel, and we cook at home, and there's 2 of us. Leads me to believe that maybe in these single-family homes, there are a lot more people than we had imagined before. And so what these additional peoples, there could be a cause for concern as to how many people are living in that household. Because that's a tremendous big barrel, and I don't have any problem with it.
In considering the barrel program and the use of a singular city-issued barrel, your concerns are among the considerations that were behind all that. In addition to that, and this is probably parallel to your concern, those who take their trash from other communities where there may be a fee attached to it, and brought their trash to be deposited in Revere. So it is surprising sometimes to drive by a single-family house and see an enormous amount of trash.
There's no need for a lot of what I see, and I see it quite often because I'm around the city all day long.
Well,
it strikes a big red flag to me.
What the ISD inspectors, I think, would tell us, and I think we're probably seeing some of this, people who are traveling from other communities see a barrel and they drop it. We know that it happens down at the boulevard with DCR barrels. One of the reasons for the city-issued barrel is that it does, in promoting this type of program, the Department of Environmental Protection is advocating not only for rodent control and things of that nature, but to encourage conservation so that people are not putting out as much trash, or they are very conscious of what they're putting out.
Just a footnote.
DEP was, one of the things they didn't like about this ordinance was the overflow trash collections. Their feeling is you should just only use so much.
In speaking with the Elections Department last week, she told me something to the fact that there might be 65,000 people residing in our community. That's a lot of people. And I don't know how many to a household, but that's a lot of people. And not to further it anymore, in terms of the request made by Councilor Rizzo, I think that's a very valid reason. You strike that fee. Why charge people if they have excess? And I think it should be done more frequently. You know, if people are going to be that conscious about going down and taking their excess trash to the dump, to the DPW, why charge them? I think it's, you know, they're doing a good thing for our neighborhoods. So I don't think that fee, I think he's right. We should strike that.
Thank you. Councilor McKenna? We'll come back to you, Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mara, when the trash bins came out, I suggested eight suggestions on how to educate people in the city to dispose of their trash correctly. Maybe we should take a look at that. That was about 3 or 4 months ago, but some of it was good. And maybe we should take a look at it as a city and maybe implement some of them. The other thing I want to say is that I like the barrels. I know that when people put their trash out, especially the rodent, even the rodent bags, rodents would get at it, tear it up, and there'd be litter all over the place. I feel like it has cut down on the litter in Revere. So I really do like the blue barrels, but I do think that Councilor Zambuto's right. We do need to educate, and instead of, just letting it, just passing them out and let them go on the wayside. So I agree. Thank you.
That is one of the most important parts of this ordinance, is that plastic bags used for trash that you can put on the sidewalk, mint flavored or whatever they are, that's no longer permitted, because it was a good idea when it came about, but over time, I think the rodents got used to the mint, developed a taste for it, so.
I would agree. Councilor Zambuto.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want to beat a dead horse here. I agree with some of this stuff, and I disagree with some of it. What I would like to see is I would like to see a second trash barrel at cost, at our cost. If we're gonna give second try, I made that recommendation a long time ago, and I think that that's a fair way of doing it.
Mr. Argento, you can speak to that, but I believe that they are available right now for
Great.
$75,
At cost, at
which
our
is
cost.
very reasonable. But
Yeah.
Mr. Argento.
Yes,
Mr.
Councilor
Durant.
Zambuto, we had tossed around the idea of the fee for the second barrel, and $75 is essentially at cost to the city.
Okay.
And to get to Councilor Rizzo's concern, cutting that piece out of the ordinance and seeing what happens, you could do that. You could always amend the ordinance. We do charge for everything that does come down to the city yard presently, and mattresses, bulk items, paint and everything, tires and what have you. So there are fees for everything that comes down there now. If someone brings down a bag of trash and it doesn't get out of hand.
My fear is that we're going to promote, somebody, I don't want to say scamming the system, but somebody circumventing the system by bringing trash that, if it's a homeowner's trash and they've got a little trash to bring down to the city, I'm fine with that. But it's ripe with fraud. I mean, let's face it, if a contractor or somebody else who may live in the city even, decides to start bringing trash on a regular basis,
Right.
now we're creating a problem. So, listen, I'm not looking to hurt the family, the one-family homeowner and the person who's happens to have a little extra trash one week or whatever, but I don't want to incentivize extra trash coming to
Right.
to the
And Council,
DPW.
we run into that now, and we're aware of it. I mean, you can come down the city yard with a mattress. There's people that pull in with 12,
Yeah.
16, and we just give them the boot. I mean,
Yeah.
So,
Well, that's my biggest
and
fear.
we'll do the same thing. If someone's coming down with
Yeah.
pickup trucks full of trash, obviously, we'll tell them to turn around and get out. But I mean, if a homeowner is coming down with an extra bag of trash and you want to amend the ordinance to that
I
point,
think
that's fine.
there's a compromise here, and without being,
Okay.
exposing this to.
Okay, and just if I can make one more comment, Patrick. Arthur Guanassa, the president, I'm going to be speaking for about 10 or 15 minutes during the council. We have a $40,000 DEP grant for education, mainly targeted at the recycling. So I want to let the council know what's going to be happening with that grant and how it's going to impact the residents. So I'll be speaking for like 10 minutes when the council meeting starts.
Well, that's excellent
Thank
news
you.
to hear of the DEP grant. Just a couple highlights on this. It looks like everyone seems to be pretty much in favor. What I would recommend is that we strike Section 8 BII, and if the DPW sees this becoming abused, then they can come back to us or communicate with us, and we would maybe potentially add that even with the fee, but I think for now we can pull that and everyone on the council would agree. A couple of the other highlights that we would ask, we had mentioned Mr. Mara, Councilor Guanasso has volunteered to act for the video of placing the trash in the bin. and we would ask that there's lots of enforcement that comes along with this. I think that the ordinance in itself is much needed, especially where I do, and I agree, a lot of the neighbors that I have, originally some were a little not understanding of the new barrels, but you see the uniformity now. Everyone is actually really happy with them because they're seeing the program work, they're seeing some of the fruits of that labor, and it has provided uniformity. Even myself, I had 2 brand-new barrels. I put them in my backyard, and they have become yard waste barrels. But outside of that, I would vote to, I would ask that we...
Mr. President, if I could just interrupt for a second. There are 2 minor items. One sort of addresses the concerns raised by Councilor Rizzo with respect to people's use of the barrels that they already own. And those can also be used not only for the overflow trash, but they can be used for as a second recycling bin. And the ordinance requires that you simply write recycle, recyclables or recycle on the side. And we actually got a call from a resident the other day who asked whether he could use his additional barrels for yard waste, and recommended, and I'd recommend that this be included in the ordinance in section, on page 11, section 8.06, 060E, with regard to yard waste and the disposal of it, that we similarly require that people write yard waste on those barrels, and so that if they do have barrels that they would not be able to use for trash collection, those barrels don't need to go to waste. They can be used for yard waste if it's marked so, or recyclables. So there may be some degree of hardship for some people, but for the most part, it's intended to address the much larger problem.
With that, the members, would you like to vote on this? We would amend that section, striking section 8B2.
So on the new trash collection ordinance as amended, Councilor Novoselsky is absent, Councilor Powers is absent, Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, and Chairman Keefe?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance will be forwarded to the full City Council as amended.
With that, concludes our meeting of the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee. Have a great night. Thank you.
The Subcommittee on Ways and Means will now come to order. This is the June 17th meeting. Will all please rise and salute the flag? Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Roll call of the members of the Ways and Means Subcommittee. Councilor Janino? Here. Here. Councilor McKenna?
Here.
Here. Councilor Morbido is absent. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Here.
Here. Councilor Guanasso?
Here.
Here. And Chairman Rizzo?
Here.
Here. Quorum is present.
The first item is calendar item 19-091. It's a loan order in the amount of $6,700,000 for Phase 10 construction, project number 4487. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this $6.7 million loan order? This is a public hearing, correct? It's a public hearing? We already had the public hearing, okay. I'm just looking at the communication. Okay. Dawn, go ahead. This is regarding pump station and drainage improvements.
So I'm a proponent for this project. Pretty much all the projects that we do as far as enhancing the drainage and the handling of the sewage in our city is extremely important for the health and well-being of the citizens of the city of Revere. So as everybody's pretty much aware of the problems, the ongoing problems down in the Henry Street, the Dolphin Ave, Jones Road area, this is a badly needed project and well thought out and well planned. The engineering department and the water sewer drain department had a hand in the actual design and all the dialogue in as far as what is needed down there. And so we wholeheartedly are for this project. And I can't say enough of it, so I really would like it to move forward.
John, thank you very much. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Donnie, as you probably know, Jackson Street, that pump down there is totally inadequate, as is the one down the end of Dunn Road. We've been down there together, and I know that has to be repaired, probably even replaced. Is there any money in this loan order to address that?
So actually there isn't, but Dunn Road has actually been running very well since we put it back into service. We periodically check it probably about once a week. It's on our route of our inspection, our weekly inspection of drain stations and sanitary stations. And as you well know, we haven't had any problems since we've gotten that pump station back online, since it's been out of service probably close to maybe 10 years. So.
And I know that you had mentioned there were some problems, potential problems with the wiring down there.
Yeah, so there is some minor upgrades we could do, but for the most part, we got it back into service with minimal costs. Pretty much, we got it back into service with just the labor from the water sewer drain division. That was just clearing this a check valve that was set in Dunn Road, and that was just labor. That was just actually opening up the manholes and clearing the tennis balls, the hula hoops, the plastic bottles that have been in there for, quite some time.
And I know we did the one on Rice Avenue. We rebuilt one of those pumps down there. And what are we going to be doing with the second pump?
So that second pump, we have to put it out because it exceeds the amount for rendering services. That project has to be, a scope of work has to be written up and it has to be sent out. Presently though, both pumps in that pump station are running, so it would only be a P&M service to the pump. But because the pump is so large, it's about 35 feet long, and it needs to be transported to Kansas City to be serviced by Fairbanks Morse, the only company that can service that pump because it's a Fairbanks Morse pump. So it can only go one place. Because it is working right now, it's just solely a P&M item that we would be sending it out to. And because we're coming into hurricane season, I prefer not to pull it just yet. Like I said, it is running. Well, it's looked in on, we grease it, we P&M it. We just do the basics that we can do for that pump. We are limited because of the size of it.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll defer to your capable hands.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor.
Thank you. Any other councilors have any questions? Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you, always, for everything that you do in my ward. We had flooding, we had a forum, and I was told that we had flooding down on Wilson, Vinyl, Taft Street. And I know I asked you to just clear the sewer, but you went down in the sewer and took 14 yards of debris out, and now they don't have any more flooding. So I just want to thank you. I think you're a great asset to this city, and I thank you for all the work that you do for me. I call you, and you take my calls right away. You come down, you look at the problems. I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McKenna, but I'd like to reach out to my guys, really the reason why I've succeeded, because they're the ones who do answer my calls. They're the ones that do go the extra mile for me, and they do work tirelessly for the problems. They're a happy bunch, very happy bunch, and yeah.
I just want to also say that, just one more thing. Christmas Eve, I was in Florida, and I got a call that someone had a sewer break in their house, and they had all their family from California. And all your guys, you had a skeleton crew on, and all your guys came out, and they fixed the sewer. So I just want to say thank you. I know I say thank you to you, but I want to say thank you to your department, too, because they're all great guys.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing us. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President Guanasso.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is obviously nothing to do with this loan order, but Donnie, publicly I'd like to thank you for the efforts going on down at the end of Douglas and Temple Street. You've received some criticism that's unjustified based on the fact that a program has been worked out between yourself and I. We understand what's going to go on there, and I appreciate that once and for all we're going to do it the right way.
Right.
That little abbreviated cut through that you made gave a little bit of relief just so the water could be relieved temporarily. This is not a permanent fix. This is something that you're going to do a great job with. And once and for all, the people that traverse Hastings Street and down Temple and Douglas will finally get something that's presentable in that area. So I appreciate your efforts that you're doing there, and I don't think you intruded upon the DEP or anybody else. You did what you said you were going to do. I agree with you. I told anybody who inquired with me as to what was going to take place July 1st. We're waiting for the budget. Then we'll do the job right, and I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you, Councilor Guanasso. I've also, I did take a little heat from that. I talked to Conservation Committee, and I just put them on notice that that road does need to be reworked. We'll take whatever steps it does to petition to the Conservation Committee or DEP to do the work necessary to reinstate that road that is in a complete mess, been totally submerged in the water for, countless years. And, roads can't be submerged underwater like that. There is no real drainage down there, and it does need to be addressed for a permanent solution.
Well, the law-abiding citizens of the area really thank you, and I appreciate your efforts, you and your workforce.
Again,
thank you.
Again, my guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have to say, in all the years I've been up here, I don't think I've ever seen this kind of praise given to you and your men. So I think sorry about that. I thought we shut all the phones off. That was one that wasn't shut off. It's obvious that what you're doing, and I don't want to single you out. You're doing a great job in your position, but the men you have around you are obviously, need the praise too, and they deserve it. Like I said, I've been here many years, never seen this much praise given on a group of men. So you're to be congratulated for the work you've done and you continue to do.
Some are here, and I hope the rest who don't have the opportunity to be here are watching, because they need the pat on the back too. You know?
Yeah, and you can thank them publicly for all of us, because we're truly grateful.
Thank you very much. Thank you much, Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you very much, Councilor. Any other councilors wishing to be heard? Well, first let me say, you guys do an excellent job, and we know they work oftentimes under very difficult circumstances, but I also want to give the water and sewer ratepayers a pat on the back, because we've spent so far, it looks like, almost $100 million in upgrades since signing on to this consent decree with the Department of Justice, and I'm not sure where the end in sight is. We had talked at one of our last budget meetings about where we were with respect to the consent decree, and from what I'm told, Nick had mentioned that, we had an agreement, I guess, in theory, but nothing concrete, and was wondering if that was going to be forthcoming, or is that just going to be a rolling gentleman's agreement that we don't, because the goal here right along, as far as I'm concerned, has been to not have to spend as much money as we have been, so that hopefully can start to give some relief to the ratepayers. And, otherwise, why spread out the terms of the consent decree? We may as well leave it as it is. So if we have some sort of a reasonable expectation that the terms will be changed at some point, then maybe we can start to discuss going forward, lowering these amounts of money. Like, you can see what's being, asked for and proposed tonight that the city council is expected to vote on. And of course, every vote we make has a direct impact on the ratepayers. So maybe if you could just kind of bring us up to speed where we're at with some formal agreement, and what maybe our expectations as people who have to approve these loan orders, what we can expect, that would be helpful for me anyway.
Yeah, I'd like to, Bob Button, please, he can really just elaborate on the loan issues.
Thank you, Tony. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Robert Button, CDM Smith, 75 State Street. Thank you for having me here. I handed out 4 pieces of information, Councilor, that came out of your request at the public hearing. And one of those pieces of information was a copy of the progress report that we just submitted to EPA in May of this year. And what this did was document over 10 years worth of compliance work that the city's been doing. Maybe it should share over there.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
So that document provides a summary of all the work that's been done. It's a 300-page report. This is an actual copy of the report that I brought with me. We've slimmed it down and included the highlights section for you. So we provided that information. What we did is we made a presentation to the federal government, and I know, as Nick had said, with the government shutdown and some delays, it's taken a little bit to get responses back, but we've proposed a schedule of doing the consent decree work in 5-year increments, and then providing a summary report at the end of that period that documents the work that's been done and the success that we've had in eliminating SSOs, eliminating sewage in people's houses, eliminating illicit discharge. So that proposal is in front of the government. The attorneys working for the city have made a presentation and a proposal to the Department of Justice. Several of the folks in the room, department heads, have been involved in that process. This report went in order to demonstrate that the city has, in fact, lived up to the terms of the consent decree and can show measurable progress, which after 10 years of working with the city, I know firsthand that we can show quite a bit of progress around the city. We did put a quick presentation together. I noticed some of you are looking at it, that documents some of the work, that shows the hundreds of thousands of gallons of daily flow that aren't going into the MWRA meters and running up the bills for the city. So there's quite a bit of information in there. In the interest of time, I think we can table that unless there are any questions, but we tried to provide you with that information so that you'd be able to see that we're working to reduce the costs. The borrowing this year is less than half of what it was, I believe, 3 years ago. We were up over 18 million. It's below that, well below that this year, and we're on the downward trend in terms of the annual spending. Every year, the city, whether you're in a consent decree or not, has to spend money to operate and maintain their water and sewer system, to fix pumps, to pay the guys, to buy the new equipment, to do all the great work that you were just talking about. So the cost will never go away. The good news now is that with all the pump stations being replaced, all 13 of the wastewater stations and 3 of the drainage stations have been upgraded, they've been alarmed. There's just a lot more efficient operation of the system. The guys have new equipment. Hopefully they'll have a new facility. And in the presentation, you can actually see some pictures of the guys out there with the new equipment that the council has approved, doing the jobs that you were just thanking them for doing before. So I think we're in a very positive light. We don't have nearly the amount of issues that we had in 07, 08 when we were having major problems and failures. We've done projects to try to make sure that you won't have major failures. We did a job last year with a local business actually to line critical crossings underneath highways, underneath railroad tracks, underneath major arteries where there would be a significant problem if we had a failure. We fixed that. So we've made tremendous strides in the city, and I think the city should be proud of what's been fixed and now how the guys in the department are operating and running it all.
Okay, with that, does anybody have any questions? The only question I have, and I'm not sure if this is a function just of the MWRA, because as we look at our budget, our FY20 budget, the assessments from the MWRA continuously go up. So it seems like I'm just kind of, I was a little hopeful that as we start to clear, do our part to clean up what we need to as a community, that somehow those numbers would be reflected in what the assessments are.
And if I may, Councilor, because that's a great point, I can, Ashley, this went to sleep on me. So one of the things that happens with the assessments from the MWRA is that there's a certain fixed cost to run the MWRA, and that cost is divided up by all the cities and towns, and it's based, that are part of the MWRA system, and it's based on a lot of different factors, but a large part of it is your average flow, the average daily flow that goes into the system. So by reducing the average daily flow by the hundreds of thousands of gallons that we have that show up in the MWRA data that's in the system, what's happened is your MWRA assessment didn't go up even more because you were letting all that, those hundreds of thousands, millions of gallons of water that shouldn't be in the system go in. So what you're seeing is your authority costs don't go up as much as they would have if you had all that extra flow in the system. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is, and I want to flip to this slide real quick. When you look at other neighboring communities, one of the things, so if you will, when you look at this slide here that's now up on the screen and went up for folks at home, it's the benefits of the work to date. Back in 2010, when you look at the wastewater in the city, almost 32% of the wastewater that went through the MWRA meters was from leaky pipes. And almost 20%, 18.2, 20%, was from inflow, sump pumps, catch basins that were collecting water that shouldn't be in the sewer systems. When you get out to 2016, which is the latest data that the authority has available, you can see that the infiltration has gone down to 28%. So we've had a very significant drop in infiltration. That's from lining the pipes that you've all seen happening in your neighborhoods. And then we've seen a significant drop as well, almost half, in the inflow. And that's from the sump pump redirects. That's from the amnesty program that you folks sponsored a few years back. So just from the authority's data, you can see a 20% change in the wastewater flow over about a 5 or 6 year period. And when we start to look at data through 2018, 2019, the more work that gets done, those numbers are just going to get better. So it's a long way of answering your question on the authority information, but by staying ahead of it, what's happening is your rates aren't going up as much as some of the neighboring communities. When you look at this particular slide here, we compared Revere to a combination of Malden, Melrose, and Everett, pretty similar size demographic local communities, and you can see that your daily flow has gone down 13% in 2016 versus that of your neighboring communities. So part of what we did is we compared all the work that's been done in Revere to your neighbors and said, wow, look at the reduction that we're seeing. So in addition to the positive things that you all see in your homes and your streets on a daily basis, the numbers from the MWRA and the numbers from the meters and the work that we've done in the city are backing up what people are experiencing, which isn't sewage running through their homes every time it rains. So I think there's a lot of good information in there if you understand, the data and what it's trying to tell you. And we've spent a lot of time trying to prepare it in such a way that the Department of Justice and EPA and DEP, the position the city was in when we first started the consent decree, where there were a lot of issues and a lot of moving parts, has really been tightened up by the performance of the city and the work that you've done, the good work that's been done.
Well, thank you very much for that explanation, Bob. If there's no further questions, if you'd like to put this to a vote, Madam Clerk?
This is on CWSRF project number 4487 in the amount of $6.7 million. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Zambuto?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes, this will be forwarded to the full city council with a favorable recommendation.
Okay, next item is 19-092. It's a loan order in the amount of $1,500,000 for Phase 2 field investigations, planning project number 4532. Bob, did you want to speak to that while you're up there?
I could if that's okay.
Just give for the edification of the council, what this $1.5 million is for, and...
Sure. Bear with me, I'm just trying to, here we go. So every year, what we have to do is we have to go out and look at the city. So when we first started the consent decree work back in 2009, 2010, for 3 years we did a triage. We looked at the whole city and we looked at what areas are in worse shape than others, and we tried to prioritize all of our work throughout the consent decree based on that initial information. So we went in, we did flow metering, we did flow isolation, we did a lot of investigations that were a rough pass at the entire city. Then each year after those first 3, in accordance with what we've told the EPA and DEP we would do under the consent decree, we go back and look at smaller targeted areas in the city. We go and we look at every single home, we inspect the sewers, we look at the catch basins, we check for illicit discharge. In addition to taking sewage out of the sewer, or water out of the sewers that shouldn't be in there, we've also taken hundreds of thousands of gallons of sewage that was going into the drainage system where people had illegally connected their toilets and their sinks and their showers and their dishwashers into the drains, and those were running out into the county ditches and into the marsh and into the creeks around the city. So in addition to fixing the sewer system, we've also done a lot of work to deal with the water quality overall. And that requires us each year, in order to plan for next year's work, we have to do investigations this year. This year's investigations are next year's construction, and that's how we've leapfrogged through the process since the beginning of the consent decree. So this investigation work will allow us to then line up the construction projects that would happen in 2021, 2022 timeframe. In addition to that, as part of that 5-year plan that we were talking about earlier, where we've said to EPA and DEP, we'll do 5 years worth of work and we'll put meters in the sewer to evaluate what's going on. This money will help us put those meters in so that we can continue to demonstrate the type of progress that we've been showing over the last 9 or 10 years.
Okay, any councilors have any questions for Bob? Bob, I just had one question. As you're doing your investigations and, coming up with an appropriate plan that's going to satisfy the terms of our consent decree, I'm assuming that we're factoring in, because of stormwater and, backup of sewer and drains, things like that, the city's efforts, whatever efforts are currently underway with respect to our resiliency plan. Are you factoring that in as well for the purposes of your numbers?
And it's also part of the, specific resiliency issues that are outside of the consent decree are not part of the numbers, but everything that we do within the consent decree is done with the intent of meeting the resiliency guidelines and setting your sewer system where we can up above the 100-year flood elevation, putting generators at the pump stations up out of the floodplain. So we're doing that type of work. We're working with the Water Sewer Drain Division now and with other consultants on the team to investigate the ditches and to characterize the sediment and to get that sediment out of there so that when we connect and fix all the drainage, it can actually get out to the ocean and get away from the neighborhood. So we are factoring all of that into the work that we're doing, Councilor.
Okay. Any other councilors have any questions for Bob? Madam Clerk, if you call the roll.
Sure, this is on CWSRF project number 4532 in the amount of $1.5 million. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes, this loan order will be forwarded to the full City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you all.
The next calendar item is calendar item number 19-122. It's a communication from the city auditor requesting an appropriation in the amount of $400,000 from free cash to be transferred to the Workers' Compensation Insurance Fund.
Good afternoon. Basically, the Workers' Compensation Fund that we set up in fiscal year 19 had a $400,000 appropriation to begin, and there have been workers' comp claims that have come in throughout the year that have exhausted those funds. So basically, we're here before the council to ask for some additional funds to be put into that workers' compensation fund so we can pay the claims of the city and the school department's workers' compensation cases. And happy to answer any questions that I could on that.
Can you give us an historical, I don't know whether it's in the budget, we can talk about it later, or in historical perspective on the, you know, we're funding this again, 400,000, am I correct in saying that? Did we fund it last year at 400,000, where you're asking for another 400,000 transfer, or?
Yeah, it used to be in the general fund as an appropriation. Last year, we created the fund so that any excess dollars would carry forward. Unfortunately, for this particular fiscal year, there was no funds to carry forward. In fact, that we've exhausted the appropriation from fiscal year 19, so.
And how does that compare to years prior? Do we have anywhere in the budget that gives us an historical perspective on that, or no?
Yeah, there should be some historical perspective in the detail. I didn't bring that up, but I can certainly try to get some more information on that. But as you know, workers' compensation cases, they're volatile. They could be a good year or a bad year. So part of the reason to set up that fund is so that we can try to budget for that and have some carry forward if we have a good year, as opposed to try to guess every year how much we'd be spending on that account.
Okay, any other councilors have any questions for Richard Biscay? Any other councilors have any questions? Well, obviously, we have to pay the claims. You haven't deemed them unwarranted, so we've got to fund it, and based on your communication, it looks like you've identified the funds. So with that, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll.
All right, so this is on a transfer in the amount of $400,000 from free cash to the Workers' Compensation Insurance Fund. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes, this will be forwarded to the full City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much. And the next communication is calendar item number 19-127. It's a communication from the city auditor requesting approval of revolving funds for FY20 in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half. Mr.
Thank you.
Biscay? Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you recall, last year, the Municipal Modernization Act required that cities and towns actually ordain their revolving funds. So last year, there was a vote to create all the departmental revolving funds in the city, and attached to those were budgets for fiscal year 2019. And according to the law, we're required to come before the City Council to set up the budget for those revenues in fiscal year 2020. A revolving fund basically is a departmental fund where revenues that come in are dedicated for specific use. And before you are all the appropriation revolving funds that were established last year. And basically, we're just looking to establish those budgets for fiscal year 2020, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do any councilors have any questions? This is, no councilors, just on the maximum annual expenditures, just trying to figure some of this out, like the holiday celebration accounts, 150,000. Would that be for, what would fall into that
That's
category?
like
Is that
your,
Christmas time, or?
That's the parade that you have for Columbus Day and some of the 4th of July celebration and such. And just so everyone's clear, we can't spend any money that isn't available. So when you set that maximum allowable expense, there could be no funds expended if the revenues aren't there. So that's just basically setting a cap. Revenues have to be there to expend that dollar, so no one can deficit spend in these accounts.
Okay, so the revolving fund for the Recreation Department, I see $300,000. So the city council is not to be led to believe that there's $300,000 in that account? That's just a maximum that you're setting?
Well, basically, the revenues that they collect for all their programs that goes into that account, and those funds are paid for those, the umpires,
Right.
the facilities, et cetera, exactly. So that's not the fund balance, that's just
So
setting
that's just the maximum expenditures that they can make, is that?
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to be sure of that. Okay, if councilors don't have any further questions, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll on this?
Sure, on the revolving fund schedule for FY 2020, Counselor Gino?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Patch is absent, Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, and Chairman Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes, this will be forwarded to the full city council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Calendar item 19-128, a communication from the Director of Finance requesting an appropriation in the amount of $2 million from the Water Sewer Free Cash to the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund.
Good afternoon. At this time, I am requesting the transfer of $2 million from the, as you read, from the Free Cash Enterprise Fund to the Free Cash Fund in order to lower or not increase as much the rate for the water and sewer rate for the ratepayers in the city. In actuality, what it will do is, since that communication, water and sewer rate has been calculated, and what it will mean a deduction in the cost of water and sewer for the residential homeowner in the amount of 1.81%, and the commercial will be 0.27% reduction. So with that, I recommend highly to make this transfer, approve this transfer in order that the ratepayers can see a reduction in their water and sewer rate.
Any questions? Councilor Powers?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. George, this would be an additional decrease with people that have the outside meters. That's something that they're going to get anyway?
They get that anyway.
So this would be an additional decrease, am I correct?
Well, what it is, they don't relate. They relate this way. Their water and sewer rate is based on what they do. Their deduct meters, we call them, and their outside meters. That's based on their usage and how much goes through it, and this won't affect that at all. The only way it will affect it is that, the only way I can see that it would affect it is that the deduction would be part of what they...
So people that use the outside meters would benefit from both, am I correct?
Well, they benefit from both. You can say that. It's a way of saying it.
Any other councilors? I don't have any questions. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Or on the water and sewer free cash transfer, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Patch is absent, Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, and Chairman Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes, this will be forwarded to the full city council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
The last calendar item is calendar item number 19-129, a communication from the mayor relative to the city's FY 2020 operating budget. So, just for the edification of my colleagues that are here that haven't participated in these hearings, we conducted a series of budget hearings with each department head. I want to thank the department heads for their cooperation and their participation in helping us get through it. We heard out each department head and went through all of their various expenses. They were able to answer questions that the council had. And at this point in time, what I think, I'd like to do is to ask members first of the committee and other members of the city council if they have any recommended cuts in the budget. As we all know, we cannot add to the budget despite maybe some things that we'd like to see. We do not have the ability to add to the budget. We only have the ability to cut. This budget in total shows that the city must raise $217,053,143. And we can either take each individual department. I don't know if that's the appetite of the council, or if councilors just want to propose any cuts from where they're at. I can go right down the line and see if there's anything that councilors would like to see cut or have any comments on the budget that they may want to talk about. That might go quicker if I go that way instead of keep bouncing back and forth. So what I'll do is I'll start to my right as we typically do. Councilor Giannino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by thanking you and the committee for, attending the hearings and for holding hearings as professionally and as effectively as we did. So that's kudos to you and to the committee. I also want to thank the department heads for taking time to be here. It's one time a year when everyone's called before us and we get a lot done and we move through a lot of information in a short period of time. And I know that you come in at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and you're here with us till 8 o'clock at night, so we appreciate that. It was a very lean budget, and the few things that were added I think are very necessary improvements to our city. So I do not have any cuts to recommend, but I just want to thank everyone that was a part of this process.
Thank you, Councilor Giannino. Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Much like Councilor Giannino, in reviewing, I do appreciate the work that you've put in this week and the last week with fellow councilors on the Ways and Means Subcommittee, as well as the directors of each department to come and speak for their department. Many times explaining to the residents on the TV of what they do and what their department handles on a yearly basis, knowing that a majority of the increases are modest, probably much more modest than surrounding communities. The majority of the increases are typical. They're healthcare related, they're pension related, they're obviously public safety, school, and DPW related, and those are what I think are modest increases. And I would not be in favor of any cuts in any of the areas. And I think that with the current revenue, we're in good financial standing, so I would be in favor of this budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for everyone that attended, all the department heads and the committee. I believe that the additions are needed in the city and will just benefit for the services in Revere. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Morabito.
Thank you. Each one of you, all you department heads, work in departments that are very difficult. And you guys have the most difficult jobs because you get the brunt of everything. When there's an issue that is brought to our attention, we come to you. And I have to say, personally, I'm pleased with each and every department head here. You guys take the brunt of everything. You're the team leader, and your team is great, but you take the brunt of everything. It all comes down to you. I'm very pleased with each and every one of you. You guys have a difficult role of servicing the people of Revere, and it's very demanding. And with that said, you guys handle yourself professionally throughout the year, and I thank you, because you are a reflection of who we are as a city. So thank you. And In terms of the budget, I think it's fiscally responsible. It's very lean. Economically, we stand strong as a city. And I do not see anywhere we can cut, and I would not be opposed to voting in favor of the budget as is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman. Mr. President, a lot's been said prior to me speaking, and I tend to agree with everybody. And, I just want to congratulate again all the department heads and all the workers that work for them. They've been doing a great job. This is the best year we've seen for production of sidewalks, sewer work, catch basin work, parks and recreation department. Everything is just awesome. But we're lucky that we have the funds to do it. We're getting plenty of free cash. We're getting plenty of I&I money from the construction that's being done in the city, the mitigation funds that are being done on the special permit folks. And, I just want to congratulate everybody and our mayor, and I know everybody wants more. We always want more. And I know we can always give more to Public Works and our police department and ISD. We can always use more folks to help it out, but that will come. Give us a little time, and we'll make everything right. Not going to be 100%. Nothing's 100%. But we'll do better as we go along. And thanks to everybody, and I will vote for this the way it is in front of me. So thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Council President Guanasso.
Mr. Chairman, I made a good selection in making you chair of Ways and Means. You certainly did a great job in serving the community. And to the folks outside here, we work day in day. Each day we work with you, and each day we get your response. And each day I come back saying, wow, what cooperation we're getting from the workforce who is within our community. It's a reflection of teamwork. You can't run this city by yourself. You can't do anything by yourself. If we don't get the teamwork, if we don't get the funds from the state, if we don't get the funds from the taxes, everything's working in a very positive vein. And for the people power and the efforts that you put forward in your jobs, each and every one of you show professionalism. You do it with class. And certainly there are a few other tasks that we have yet to do the remainder of this year. We're going to complete them. We're going to do them. And it's with your cooperation, with your hard work and effort, it's going to make our city much better. And again, I attended every Ways and Means Committee with the exception of one. And I saw people coming up and making their presentations. And what you've done is you know your budget, you know what you have to expend, and you know your workforce. And so that's a compliment to you as department heads to know what's going on right within your own department. And so your leadership has brought us to this level, and I thank you very, very much for your service to our community. And Mr. Chairman, again, thank you for your service.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the first thing that people, our constituents, need to understand is that the greatest part of that budget is for personnel. People out on the street, whether it's public safety, school department, whatever it might be. And we're mandated through educational reform to give the school department a certain amount of money every year. And that's something you can't cut. For the past couple of years, we've been putting extra money into Chapter 90 to get streets and sidewalks done throughout the city, and we are doing that. I know in my ward, I'm thrilled to see some of the work that they're doing out there on streets and sidewalks. It's amazing, and we're going to do more, a lot more. And, we heard tonight, we heard about the great job that the DPW is doing down there, and they are doing a great job. There's no question about it. But they're doing that job because we're giving them the equipment and the personnel to make everything work a little faster and a little better for the city. I don't see any money that can be cut out of this budget. I mean, I chaired the Ways and Means Committee several times, and it's a very difficult thing. If you're cutting money out of this budget, you're cutting things out that need to be done. and that will have to be done later. It's like a drainage system and a water system. We're spending money now on a consent decree because that's money we should have spent a long time ago, taking care of those issues, whether it's drainage, sewerage, pumps, whatever it might be. So I honestly, in good conscience, cannot see any cuts in this budget that need to be made. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Councilor Zambudo?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to congratulate you on the job you did running these budget meetings. And, we're talking about this almost $218 million budget. And when I started running for office, the budget was $50 million. So that ought to tell you something about what's happened and how old I am. Yeah. That ought to tell you. No, what it tells you is that I get to see the growth of this city and how we've soared over the years that I've been on this council. And I'm proud to be a member of this council, and especially proud when we go through an exercise like this. We had all these great department heads come up here, and what it really was this year was an informational meeting. We got to talk to all the department heads and hear about all the good, in some cases, a lot of cases, the new things we're doing, and the technology has changed so drastically. And, this city is run a lot more efficiently nowadays. Part of it is because I've been here a lot of years, but the better part is that, people are working really hard, and we truly appreciate all you do for us. I remember, I go back far enough to remember when these meetings used to be contentious, and it used to be people getting beat up here when they come up to explain why they need another $50,000 in their budget, and that didn't happen at all, and it was very little grandstanding this year, and it's an election year, and you have to have some history to understand what it could be like, and it wasn't like that, and it's heartwarming, it really is, and some of the people out there, some of the constituents might say, geez, you got $218 million budget and you're not cutting anything. Well, it's because it's an efficient budget and it's being used. And we heard all the accolades to the Water and Sewer Department and all the good things that are happening today in this city that didn't used to happen. And we've come so far that we don't have those SSOs or whatever you call them coming out of we don't have sewage coming out of the catch basins anymore. And we've truly come a long way, and I don't know. There's just a lot of good to say about this, and the bottom line is I don't have any cuts, but there used to be a time when we'd cut insurances and they'd be put back in later, and that was just for effect, and we don't do that today. We're honest, and we're honest with the constituents, and we tell them what's what. And yes, it's a lot of money, and the taxes are very high in the city of Revere, but it's not being wasted, I can guarantee you that. A lot of good things are happening in this city, and I'm proud to serve it, and I'm proud to be on this committee. And again, Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for your hard work. And I want to thank all the department heads for all the great information that we got during these proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilor. Any other councilors have anything? I have several questions. I don't know who would be prepared to answer it, if Richard Viscay or George Anzoni. I'd just like to ask some questions here for some clarification. And
Mr. Chairman, can I apologize, but I left out one thing I wanted to say, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
I wanted to thank the city auditor for coming up here and being here for all the meetings and explaining any of the details that needed to be explained. I think it was a nice effect, and it really it was educational and helpful to me, and I'm sure to my colleagues. So again, thank you to the city auditor. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that leeway.
no problem. If I don't know, somebody could help me out with a couple of questions here.
Happy to try to answer any questions you have.
Okay. So in section 4, page 5, Do you have the budget in front of you?
I'll grab one second.
Section 4, page 5?
Water Sewer Enterprise Fund?
Yes.
Yes, sure.
Just a question for some clarification here. It looks like we budgeted in FY19 under our bonded debt $2.63 million, 2.634, and this year it looks like they're proposing 3.656, an increase of about $1 million there. Can you explain why? I mean, if we look at 18, it was 2.6. It went up slightly in FY19, and then it jumped way up in 2020.
I mean, the numbers that are budgeted are exactly what the debt service payments are going to be. I know that there's, and George may be better suited to speak of the history of it, but in some cases, we had some temporary borrowings or bond anticipation notes, but eventually those capital projects have to come on the books with a full amortization schedule that pay both principal and interest. So that number is the number for fiscal year 20 on the actual debt. So there's no extra dollars in there.
I'm just curious why the huge increase. I mean, we've been doing in fact, Bob had alluded to the numbers coming down. So we've been doing work along the way. I'm just curious as to why that number jumped up by $1 million.
Yeah. Thank you, Richard. The reason for that is, Council, is that the SRF loans are, what happens with the SRF loans, the city can't time when the SRF loans hit the books. It's when they finally gather everything up, we spend our money, and they gather it all up, and they say, okay, we're selling they sell the bonds, not us. So we can't say when the monies are going to be sold and the bond schedules are going to hit we don't have any say in that, when they're going to hit the city's books. There were a number of projects that were outstanding that had been approved by the city council, and what happened is the work has been completed and the SRF has decided to sell the bonds, and that's why that amount was. It could be loan issues that were a couple of years old, which they probably were. It's the eventuality that they do hit the city's books, so to speak, or their bond schedules, and that's what happened in this case, and that's why that is like that. It's not go ahead.
No, it just seems like an extraordinarily high increase, as it's, we don't have another historical perspective going back to 2016, 2017, but it just seemed,
well, again, it's bond issues that were, they could have been authorized in years past, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And then all of a sudden the SRF, the work has been completed. They usually don't sell the bonds unless the work has been completed and we've sent our numbers in. And then they pile it up with their batches. They batch it on their own on what they're going to sell. And they pick the different cities and towns that they're making a loan to. We've had and on top of this, we've had some principal forgiveness over the years, which, again, the city received from the SRF. So with that, I mean, the amount is a larger amount than past years. However, it's not any fault of the cities. It is the way the system works, and that's the way the SRF loans would work, because they batch up the loans and they decide when they're going to sell them. Where in the city is, we authorize it and we make a decision that we're going to sell it for the non-water and sewer bonding that we do, which gives us a different perspective because we can plan better on how they actually can hit our records and actually hit our budget.
okay.
Okay.
My next question has to do, we're still in section 4, page 13 of the capital outlay.
Okay.
Maybe someone can help me with that. There was an increase there in a little over $100,000. I'm just wondering what that extra $100,000 was for?
Page 13?
Yeah, section 4, page 13.
Okay, I'm one page off. Are you talking about the solid waste recycling enterprise?
Yeah, the Solid Waste Recycling Enterprise Fund, it's under capital outlay. Yeah, capital outlay.
Go ahead, Rich. That's not to do with bonding, though.
Thank you. Yeah, capital outlay for the barrels that we leased, we have a 3-year lease on those barrels since we started in the middle of the fiscal year. This actually accounts for the 12 months of.
So those are for the
payments.
barrels?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right. Under section 5, page 2, that would be under revenue detail. I'm just, you know, with respect to our estimated local receipts, our FY19 estimated local receipts general fund, it just shows investment income at 3%, and now in 2020, it's projecting a 6%. You know, that it would, our investment income will make up 6% of our local receipts.
Yeah,
how's that jump?
Interest rates in general have gone up, and I know the treasurer's been moving some of that money into the MMDT, which is the money market account, and those rates have risen, and we've realized about $1 million in interest income. We have a lot of money on hand, so the more money we have on hand, the more interest we get on those dollars. So we're, well, I'm happy to say that we're above and beyond our estimate for fiscal year 19 at almost 200% of what we estimated. So we're just estimating based upon the revenues on hand and the interest rate that we're receiving at the time.
Okay. Staying in section 5, page 7. This is just, maybe you can help me understand this just a little bit under hotel excise tax.
Sure.
So it looks like in 2015, the city received close to $1.8 million in hotel excise tax. And now in 2019, we're projecting less than that, 1.7 million. I mean, it seems, any reason we're in a strong economy, it seems as though the hotels are all doing great. We haven't lowered the amount of money that we're putting on our rooms tax, are we?
No, it's, again, the economy is doing well. I imagine more people are traveling. We get those hotel excise and mail excise on a quarterly basis, reimbursed from the state, so they collect the money for us, and they send us a quarterly check similar to the cherry sheet money, and we're about at 1.7 million through 3 quarters. So again, I think that the good economy is helping us realize some of these excise and mails taxes throughout the city.
So I think you're misunderstanding. Like, it looks like it's gone down from 2015. You're projecting 1.7 from almost 1.8. Like, honestly, I don't totally understand why that would be in an economy like we have right now. And
well, the actual numbers from 2011 to 2018, those are actual numbers. 2019 is an estimated number. That was estimated conservatively, so any revenue that we collect over 1.7 million in fiscal year 19 will fall to the bottom line of free cash. So 2020 estimate is more based upon a realistic revenues coming in from hotel excise.
Okay.
A point of information?
Yes.
Could it be because there's more Airbnbs now? They're taken away from the hotel rooms? I'm just asking.
You know what, your guess would be as good as mine. That's why I'm asking the question. I don't really know why the revenue would have really gone down over a 4-year period or 5-year period, at least, you know, in the project. I'm not sure. Could be. I'm still not sure how many Airbnbs we have in the city.
I don't think any of this has to do with Airbnbs. It's just, I mean, you're talking about $80,000 between the 4 years. So, I mean, that's on 1.7 million. I don't think that's a huge delta. It seems pretty level. I will say that I do know that in fiscal year 19, we're having a very successful year collecting those hotel excise tax, and I imagine that the economy is helping drive that figure up.
Okay. Do you have a question, Councilor? Councilor Keith?
Thank you, Mr. Rizzo, Councilor Rizzo. So I think what Councilor Rizzo is getting at is the projection seems low for next year.
Well, we always try to project conservatively where we could, but again, it's $300,000 over last year, so there's a fine line between estimating too much and coming in with a revenue shortfall and trying to estimate realistically. Try to take 3-year averages typically, but again, we're at about 1.6 million through 9 months, and we get that revenue quarterly, so we'll see April, May, and June's revenue come in, and then I imagine that we're going to be over the $2 million mark for sure, and basically we estimate it based upon those figures.
Any other questions? Staying right in section 5, page 9, under fines and forfeits, any basis for why it looks like our fines you're projecting them at really 50% higher than they were in 2016. Any particular reason for that?
We've increased our enforcement. We have 5 officers out there enforcing the parking rules and regulations, and I believe also last year the street cleaning fine went to $50, which was, I believe, $20. So the compounding effect of additional staff and increased fines have brought those figures up. Again, not being here in 2015 or so, I don't know what happened, but I know that we have 5 full-time parking control officers on staff right now.
Okay. I'm sorry that I have these questions. We slotted 2 hours here, so if councilors don't have questions,
I have a question, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Go ahead, Councilor Powers.
I'll direct it to Mr. Visquet. I'm looking at the meals tax, and I'm looking at the from 2015 up to not projected 2018. And I see an increase here of $125,000 in meals taxes. Am I looking at the right numbers?
That's $75,000.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, $50,000.
Yeah, and is that because of there's a 0.75% we collect on the meals tax increased at all?
It hasn't increased. It's been the same. It's, again, additional restaurants that open up and additional people going out. A better economy allows for more people to dine out, and we're realizing the benefits of those.
So you could attribute this to, a better economy and more people, more restaurants, people going into our restaurants.
Yeah, and any new restaurants that may have opened. But again, we get these revenues quarterly, so 3 quarters through the year, we're almost at our budget mark for 2019.
I see it's increased dramatically.
We're doing really well. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Powers. Okay, my next question was in section 1, page 22, pertaining to the overlay account. If you could just explain that to me here. It is projected cherry sheet assessment from the Commonwealth will increase 3%. Then other expenditures, you've got $1.2 million, a little over that. And then you go down to overlay, $750,000. I wasn't clear on what all those numbers meant. You were talking the balance in all prior years overlays about $1.25 million.
Yeah.
But then I see overlay $750,000, the expenditure 1.2. So maybe you could dissect that a little so I know exactly what it is we're looking at.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. So other expenditures, the total, the 1.220 number, that's the sum of overlay, cherry sheet offset, and the supplemental appropriation. So that's the total, and then the 3 figures below equal that $1.2 million. With regard to overlay, the Municipal Modernization Act has allowed us now to combine all prior year overlay into one account. So we have the benefit now in the city of all the prior overlay. We can combine that, and that balance is $1.2 million. So if we raise $750,000 on the recap, we'll have a total $2 million to apply toward any abatements, exemptions, misvaluations, et cetera, during abatement time. So the 1.25 million is what we currently have on hand, And when we do the recap in December, we'll raise $750,000, give or take, and that'll give us a $2 million total overlay amount that we can use to fund abatements, veterans abatements, exemptions, et cetera.
So you have other expenditures, 1.220820. What is that?
That's the overlay of $750,000 plus the cherry sheet offset of $70,820 plus the supplemental appropriation $400,000. The sum of those three numbers, we categorize those as other expenditures.
Okay. That stuff I can ask for later. So I know Councilor Zambudo had said earlier about making cuts in insurances and how that's just kind of semantics. In some ways, particularly with the property and casualty, I would agree. Property and casualty, yes, because the bill is what the bill is. But we self-insure on our group health insurance, and those costs have just gone out of control as far as I can tell. And, so what I looked at was the increase. I think it was about 8.5% or 9%, the increase in group health insurance, which I'm just not comfortable with. The budget went up 5.6%. I mean, if we gave a 5.6% increase in the group, group health account, that would still bring it up significantly. And, I think it would make sense for us to look at a cut in that, I just did some simple math, we could, because see, what happens is, and people don't realize this, a lot of, we have a lot of free cash at the end of the year, and I understand that this is an account that we self-fund, and sometimes we have a premium holiday where experience is good. It's good for the employee. It's good for the city. But when we over budget and overcharge, I don't think we're doing anybody any real favors. We're certainly not doing the taxpayers any favors. They're the ones that are paying the bills, and you're talking about a $217 million budget. So this is not necessarily, sadly, it's not going to provide any tax relief for people per se. But it's going to be $600,000 that it will be money that we won't have to come up with to fund this overall budget. We can lower at least that number a little bit. You look at, the city of Malden's got 61,000 people. I don't think our last numbers are 61,000. Their proposed budget for this year is $179 million. A 1% increase this year they're proposing. We're proposing a 5.6. In the last 2 years alone, we've hired 80 new people. The last 2 years. I'm told that there's about 150 additional people into our retirement system during the last 4 years. I mean, that to me is alarming. I mean, we're playing catch up with OPEB and with our pension liability, and we're adding these kind of numbers. I mean, I don't know. It just seems very out of line for me. And I didn't run for city council to come up here and not take a hard look at things. That's just my nature. I've done that since the first day I served back in 2000. And what I'm seeing right now, to be quite honest with you, is very alarming to me. And I won't go on to all the reasons why I think some of it's happening and so on, but it's just, this is the one time a year that we come up and we look after the taxpayers. We try to represent them and look at these numbers and say, I understand everyone comes up all year long, additional appropriations. We need money for this. We need money for that. And I respect the job that all of our departments do. They do great jobs. They do great work. But they got to do the job with 150 more employees over the last 4 years, 80 employees over the last 2 years. This year, there was, I think, well, strike that. But 80 positions in the last, in the last 2 years, 1176 to 1256. It just doesn't seem to me to make good fiscal sense for a city our size. Like I say, City of Malden, 61,000 people, a budget of $179 million. That's almost $40 million less than ours. I mean, what are they doing so much worse off than we are? Is Malden in that bad a shape? I don't know. But I'm just not comfortable with it. And rather than, I'm not going to go and talk about, we're going to cut, I'm not going to do that, but I am pretty adamant about cutting at least something that I know the city can survive with, and that's a $600,000 cut in group health. You want to have a premium holiday down the road if you can, have a premium holiday. I'm all for it. But, I'm definitely in favor of that. Council doesn't want to go along with it. They want to just put their mark on it. That's fine. But I have to vote the way I want to, the way I have to vote, because as I peeled open every single page of this document over the last several weeks, and I look back to where we were and what was being spent, and where we are now and what's being spent, it's unnecessary as far as I'm concerned. The city can run just fine the way Malden is at $179 million versus the $217 million that we're proposing. So I'm proposing a $600,000 cut, and I didn't hear any other cuts. So, if there's no other cuts, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on that. I guess there's just going to be one offering of a cut.
Would you mind if I responded to any of those comments? Or?
You can respond, sure.
Okay. I know Finance Director wants to speak a little bit in detail more about the health insurance in general, but you asked, you made a lot of points on that, so I just want to,
sure.
How we compare to Malden is something that probably could be looked at and try to find out what the differences are. I mean, I think we're in much better shape than Malden, financially, et cetera, but that's a conversation we could have another day. As far as new employees go, this budget has a list of full-time equivalents that have been hired over the last 4 years. So certainly if you're pulling the numbers from that, those are the numbers. But you'll find that most of the employees that are added are either at the school department, in the public safety, or the Department of Public Works. With that, all those new people come with health insurance plans that drive that number up. Now, all I will say about the health insurance budget is that we take the premium rates that are given to us by our consultant, we times it by the number of employees that take health insurance times 12 months, and that's what the figure comes out to. What I think is a better indicator of how our health insurance trust is doing is looking at the balance in the actual trust account. The appropriation part is just us doing math on number of plans times the rate times 12 months. So I would just use caution in cutting that number, because most likely we will be before you to ask to add that back in. However, to your point, if we're having a good year in the health insurance trust, you'll see that balance go up because the employee share and the employer share go into the trust from which the bills are paid. So I think a better indication of how we're doing in the health insurance is not necessarily by the appropriation, but the balance in the trust account. And that's all. I just wanted to clear
Richard,
that up.
Point of information.
If we weren't self-insuring and it was the bill we were getting from Blue Cross, I mean, of course I wouldn't cut it. We have to pay people's health benefits. We're self-insuring. I think that we're really overstretching here. And I know we've hired the city's hired a lot of people. I've said that and I keep saying it, but,
Mr. Chairman,
bottom line.
point of information?
You have a point of information?
I do.
Yes, state your
Malden's
point.
budget, $177 million, was fiscal year 2019. Our $217 million is for fiscal year 2020.
Their proposal is a 1.1% increase for FY20. So it was $179 million in the city of Malden. It's a 1.1% increase. That's what they're proposing. So, but thank you for your point. I would like to propose the $600,000 cut.
Budget? This is my budget, Chairman, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
If I could speak on it. Again, I concur with the city auditor and how we somewhat come to the rates. This year, we have experienced 3 very large losses. The losses aren't something we can control. We had one loss of over $1 million, and it was and it's still going on. We just put out an RFP for a stop loss, and they lasered that one incident, all right? So meaning they wouldn't cover that incident because they felt it was so, it's going to be a continuing incident. And I'm trying to say this in a way that I'm not giving any information that's against the HIPAA laws, but that one incident is going to continue, and they are not going to pick the stop loss up on that for $1 million. And that's Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we're going to have to pay $1 million where everybody else's, an incident is $200,000. We're going to have to pay $1 million before they're going to start picking that up in the stop loss. I would wholeheartedly recommend to this council, because of our incidences that we now have ongoing, and then there was another incident where they lasered it at $450,000, and another incident at $500 and some odd thousand. So we are having a number of incidences or cases where it's going down. They're asking us, both Blue Cross and Harvard, to put more money into our trust fund. They want us to increase the amount of the trust fund balance by $300,000 for Blue Cross Blue Shield and $100,000 for Harvard Community Health. They have come up to, they have sent those communications to me. I've passed them on to Cook & Company, who is our consultant, who does a number of cities and towns in Massachusetts, and they also recommended the same. So looking at all of this and what we're facing and what I know of the accounts, which I can't pass on, other than these blanket statements that I'm making, but I know the particulars. Because of HIPAA rules, they can't be given out. Knowing all of that, I would recommend highly you don't cut that, Mr. Chairman. That's the one thing that you're dealing with people with.
I have a question for you, George. Can you go back? What's the reason that the stop loss isn't in play for that claim? What's the reason that they're not covering?
The claim is, the reason why the stop loss is increased, because that's going to be an ongoing claim. It's such a
I would imagine those large losses are ongoing. They're not emergency room visits for $1 million.
No, they're not, but they are ongoing, but that's going to be a case where it's already cost us over $1 million. And it's only happened in September. So looking at that, when they put their rates out, as you know, when they look at their rates, they look at what their exposure is going to be. And the city's exposure on this particular case is very high. And looking at that and the other 2 cases that I'm mentioning, looking at those cases, you can see that, what's happening is that your increased costs, and I said that at my budget hearing, your increased costs on health insurance is just going to go up. And we don't have we're not looking right now where we have a trust fund. We have to go in our trust fund based on, have to keep something at least 2.5 months of claims in our trust fund. We're just about that now. If we go any lower, the financial markets are going to say to us, what are you doing? DOR is going to come out to us and say, wait a minute.
Do we have available free cash? Is there any free cash left?
There's free cash left.
Well, so why can't that fund it? Why does it have to go in the taxpayer's back?
If you'd rather take it out of free cash, but if you...
Yes, I'd rather take, personally I would. Unless you, I don't recommend we keep, it's even more alarming that we know these things are happening with respect to health insurance. You've got these stop loss, anomalies.
Right.
And yet we hire 80 people in the last 2 years? I don't understand, and I know you're not directly responsible for that, George. I'm not taking this out on you personally.
Right.
I'm just saying that
I understand that.
there's, the taxpayers are the ones who are paying all this. This isn't, if we're all going to pass the hat around the room, we're going to fund it, okay, let's do it.
Right.
But this is, the budget is being paid by the taxpayers, and to me, the way that we're spending right now, we can, it's just not, I'm not comfortable with it whatsoever. We're way above our peers in terms of spending. 10 tax bills have not gone down. I mean, I hear it all day long, over in my neighborhood, and you're over on my side of the, if you tell me that you haven't heard anybody complaining about taxes, I'd be shocked. I mean, I have people tell me all the time that their tax bills, they can't sustain it anymore. $1,000 a year, $1,500 a year. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And so I'm offering one cut. I'm not going deep into the budget, which, quite honestly, I mean, not that I'd have the support here, but I could. I mean, I could go in, and there's a lot of areas, I think, but the bottom line is, this is one cut that I'm proposing that I think could be funded from other sources right now, that we don't need to, I know that the financial markets, they want, they look at us very closely, and they look at our overlay account and all this stuff, but yet we're going into the overlay account for $1 million a year for the, so, I mean, I don't see how cutting $600,000 out of a self-funded group health plan, it's just $600,000 less that our taxpayers have to come up with. And, I would recommend that it come out of free cash, but, well, I'm one vote. I'm one vote here, so everybody can vote how they see fit. I sat through these hearings. I've heard this argument for the last 15 years about group health insurance, and I know we have the doomsday mentality, as if the city's going to sink a $217 million budget on a $640,000 cut.
Well, I'm not going to say the city's going to sink on that. What I am saying is, in the facing of in a prudent mind, is that in a prudent decision, based on what we're looking at, and based on that our trust fund right now is just at the 2.5%, 2.5 months of claims, and that's what the DOR requires. That's what the financial markets require. When I did this budget and I put it together and looked at it and talked to our consultants numerous times, I even asked them ways that we could cut this down in any fashion. And then if you cut it this year, you're going to have to it's going to be made up next year even more. So if you cut $600,000 next year and the rates go up a certain amount, it's going to go based on what the rates are now. So you may go up $600,000 now. It's down, take out $600,000 now, but you maybe have to put in $1 million in next year. So that's the only, my sort of like putting the caution out there is what I'm doing here. And I'm saying that with in a fashion so that you understand that the city is not, especially in this health insurance, is not it's not a money-making proposition, that's for sure. But the other part of it too is it definitely needs to be funded fully, because at the same time, Blue Cross Blue Shield has to know, hey, we got the money in there. Because if we start dipping into that 2.5 months worth of claims, I'm going to be coming up here and saying, you know what, we need more money.
Well, George, if we keep fanning the flames, let's hire another 20, 30 people this year. Let's keep adding to the health insurance pool. Let's keep doing it. I mean, where does it end? Where does it end?
Well, based on what
where does it end? I mean, I've got to go, I have to leave this building and go out and talk to the people out there that aren't happy. They're not happy with their tax rates. They're not happy. I mean, there's 1,000,001 things that people have concerns and complaints about. I mean, I just talking facts. These are facts. The health insurance going up 8.8% this year. For what?
It did go up again because our experience rates were high, and that's all I can say. And I continue to say our experience rates were high. I can't show you the experiences because that's part of the HIPAA laws, but I can say the consultants that we've hired and been our consultants for 20-something years, and their estimates are right on the money. They usually, and they have been, they have told us that this is the amount of money that we need, based on the experience rate.
Well, they gave us a bum deal on the stop loss that didn't go through. I don't know how that could possibly happen. We have a stop loss insurance policy so that we don't have to pay those claims that go above $250,000.
Well, we had to put it back every year. We put that back out for a request, and again, that's what's put out this year for request. And although they covered it last year because they had to, this year they saw that and they decided everybody that bid lays at those claims. Everybody that bid lays at those claims. So that's all I can say. I just warn the council about that. And this is what you're dealing with, and you're dealing with people's health insurance.
All right, thank you, George. Madam Clerk, there's one potential cut, if you want to call the
Mr. Chairman, I'd
roll.
like to speak.
Go ahead.
Chief Guido, Chairman, Insurance Advisory Committee. I would implore that the council don't make this cut. The rates are already set. The employees' rates are set off of the whole rate, and this will...
This would lower their rate.
Right, it'll lower our rate, but we'll be putting the money back later. We had
I
a
don't think
premium
so.
holiday last year, we probably shouldn't have, and now we're paying now. The employees' rates went up, the city's rates went up, and I agree with the new auditor. Going forward, instead of having a premium holiday, we should leave the money in the trust fund so we can lower the rates in the future.
I suggest we take free cash and
I
lower
know
the
for
employees'
25 years
rates.
I've been doing the insurance.
And it's
There's a
been going up
union,
dramatically.
And Cook and Company's been on the money all the time, and I don't suggest the council cut the medical. It's basically a charade. We'll be putting the money back. And if we use free cash, next year's amount will go up double. The amount of the free cash, so we'd be
Well, I don't know why it's
raising the
going up
money
at that
twice.
dramatic of a rate.
So if we need to cut 500,000, there's plenty of other places in the budget to make cuts, and it shouldn't come out of the health insurance.
I think the employees would appreciate a reduction in their health insurance rates.
If it was a true reduction, but
It is a
we
true
know we need the
reduction.
money in the health fund, so I disagree.
Okay, good.
Can I speak? Yeah, I'm also on the advisory board for the health insurance, and I agree with Chief Guido that I don't think we should touch it. It's too dangerous.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you call the roll, that's the one cut apparently that we're talking about.
So this would be a $600,000 reduction on the employee group health line. Counselor Janino?
No.
No. Counselor McKenna?
No.
No. Counselor Morbido?
No.
No. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
No.
No. Counselor Guanasso?
No.
No. And Chairman Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes, that reduction request fails.
This will conclude our Ways and Means Subcommittee meeting. I want to thank everybody for their participation. So we'll take a vote on it right now then, and then we'll do it in subcommittee, and then we'll put it out to the whole council? Okay. Go ahead. You can call the roll, Madam Clerk.
Shall the City Council adopt and approve, so the Ways and Means Committee, shall they issue a recommendation for the fiscal year 2020 budget in the sum of $203,390,333? And that's as presented by the mayor. Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. And Chairman Rizzo?
No.
No. This will be, the FY 2020 budget will be forwarded to the full City Council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you all for your attendance, and we will report out all of these matters before the City Council this evening. This concludes our Ways and Means Subcommittee meeting.
Hello and good evening, and welcome to the Revere City Council meeting of June 17, 2019. Those members in the audience, would you please rise and join the City Council in a salute to our flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call of the members. Councilor Janino.
Here.
Here. Councilor Keefe.
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here. Councilor Morbido.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rizzo. Here. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo is absent. And Council President Guanasso.
Here.
Here. Quorum is present.
Madam Chairman, Madam Clerk, prior to this evening's meeting, I would just like to announce that 2 members of the City Council will be unable to attend tonight's meeting. Councilor Patch is still home caring for his son, and hopefully his son will receive another operation and put him back to the means of good health, and we look forward to Councilor Patch returning as soon as possible. And Councilor Rotundo called and told me that he would be unable to attend today's meeting. He's being hospitalized. Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Calendar item number 2, approval of the journal of the regular meeting of June 3rd, 2019.
So moved.
All in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Councilor Janino, please rise. Come to the podium, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we have a surprise item on our agenda this evening, and I'd like to welcome Fran and Sonny Citro up to the podium with myself and the Council President. So the reason that we're here this evening honoring this couple is on behalf of their 60th wedding anniversary. That is quite an accomplishment, and the Citros have been longtime residents and friends of the City of Revere, so it's an honor for the Council President and I to offer this citation this evening. I'm going to read the citation. So, City of Revere Council citation. In celebration of their 60th wedding anniversary on June 7th, 2019, special recognition is hereby accorded to Fran and Sonny Citro. The City of Revere offers its sincerest congratulations and sends its best wishes for many more happy years of marriage. This citation is presented by the City Council of the City of Revere, Massachusetts, on behalf of its citizens this 17th day of June in the year of our Lord, 2019, and in the independence of the United States, the 242nd. It's a motion offered by Councilor Janino, and it was signed by City Clerk Ashley Melnick, and also offered and signed by City Council President Arthur Guanasso.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. You want to go on one side and I'll go on the other?
Sure.
I'll go on the other side.
Oh, okay.
Get over here.
Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Sure. For calendar item number 3, Senator Boncory was unable to attend tonight, so we're going to reschedule that for some time in the fall.
So moved. This evening, we have individuals going to come before us. Director of Public Works, Paul Agengio. The Public Works will update the City Council on a grant the DPW may receive. Mr. Agengio.
Thank you, Mr. President. The city applied for and was awarded a $40,000 grant from the DEP to help with recycling education. Unfortunately, over the years, recycling has had the opposite financial effect than what we thought it would. Right now, for trash, we pay $72 a ton. For recycling, we pay $79 a ton to get rid of it. And when the loads are contaminated with trash and other things that aren't supposed to be in there, it's costing $105 a ton. Currently, every load that we recycle is contaminated. So with this $40,000 grant, we're going to try to go on a massive education program for the city, and it's for its citizens. Everyone seems to have lost sight on how to recycle. So starting the end of June, we're going to be having ads in the paper. We're going to have mailings to people's houses, banners, a full-blown educational program to help get people to recycle properly. The biggest part of the program, we're going to hire 4 temporary employees, and we're going to take 25% of every recycle route, and we're going to audit it over 18 weeks. So that would mean we're going to actually walk the streets, look in people's recycle bins, and put a tag on their recycle bin if they're not doing something properly. The first week will just be a warning. After that, starting on subsequent weeks, we're going to push the bin aside and we're not going to take it. People will then have the opportunity to go through, do what they have to do, and then we will take it the following recycle week. So there will be some impact on the citizens when we push that recycle bin aside and not take it. That's part of the DEP grant. We're mandated to do that. But hopefully with the educational portion of it happening 3 or 4 weeks prior to that, we won't have to do that, or that'll be minimal that we'll have to do that. I know there will be some impact, but we're going to try to avoid doing that. So that's basically the program, and hopefully we can stop the hemorrhaging, so to speak, on our recycle program. Once that's done, later in the year, now that I assume the ordinance, the new ordinance, trash ordinance, will be passed tonight. Once that's done, we can then start to work on the trash program and get people doing what they're supposed to do with the trash and trash bins and what have you.
Sounds great.
So if you have any questions.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
McKenna.
Paul, are you going to do a mailing before you're going to start the education with the program?
No, there's going to be a full mailing. In fact, we're going to mail out a magnet that people can put on the refrigerator.
Oh, that's
that
great.
shows them what to do.
Because honestly, I'm unsure on what to put in there. I didn't even know that you couldn't put a pizza box in
Right.
there.
You can't.
I had no idea.
No food items. The biggest thing that people are doing is they're taking their recycling, putting it in a trash bag, tying it, and putting it in their recycle bin. The recycling facilities are completely automated, so once it gets there and goes on the automated machinery, there's no way of sorting it because it's all in, so that's considered trash. And that's probably the biggest thing that people are doing that they shouldn't be doing. So if anyone else has any questions, I'll be happy to.
Councilor Morbido.
So what is the inspection process when one picks up looks through the recycle? Does someone just pick up a cover? Like, what is the
They're not
process?
going to dig through it. They're going to pick up the cover, and if anything is obvious on the top that shouldn't be in there, obviously we're not going to nitpick, but if it's egregious, they'll get a warning, and then the next time we'll just push the bin aside.
He's looking for volunteers.
Right.
He's a good candidate.
So, and that process will go from July 8th into the beginning of November.
Thank you very much.
Other cities and towns have been getting this grant consistently over the years, so we'll do 25% of the recycle route this year, and then hopefully in subsequent years we'll just continue on. And I know the city of Lynn has been doing this, and they went from 40 or 50% contamination down to about 10%. So
Great.
It's worked over there.
Okay,
All right.
sounds great. Thank you
Okay.
very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, motion to suspend rules in order to take up calendar item number 24. Suspension of rules. All in favor, all opposed? So ordered, rules are suspended.
Calendar item number 24, communication from the Director of Finance requesting a loan order in the amount of $9.2 million for the Alden Mills Point of Pines Fire Station.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to thank the City Council. I would like to be a proponent of this communication, obviously, for the $9.2 million that is needed to reconstruct and rebuild the Point of Pines, Alden Street, Alden Mills Fire Station. As when I came up before you in favor of the feasibility study, for the same reasons I have for this to continue, with the bond authorization. Now the feasibility study has come up. I know the feasibility study has been presented to you as a whole and broken down on the cost. The cost in the report was $9,157,000. However, in the bond market, they don't like to go into gross numbers, and I ask you to raise it to the higher amount of the 9.2. I am a proponent of this. There's a number of reasons why I'm a proponent, and the firemen will probably be able to tell you much better than I how it will lower the call response time and giving the construction going on down the beach area in that area the higher protection for the public safety of the residents down there. So I would just like to say that this is a 20-year bond issue, and would ask you to pass it on to a public hearing, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them at this time.
I see a large contingency here from the Revere Fire Department. What I'd like to remind you also is that this is going to be ordered to a public hearing on July 29th. And so at that public hearing is the day that we make our presentation before the council and for the viewers at home and those in the audience. So if anyone wants to say a brief statement this evening, fine, but we're going to order this to a public hearing on July 29th. Thank you.
Any questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
State your name and address for the record, please.
Eric Lampedecchio, 43 Tapley Avenue. I just want to say thank you to the City Council, and I hope that this goes through. This fire station is sorely needed, and I'd like to thank Deputy Chief Chivas for explaining a lot of the plans to me. They're very thorough, and they've done a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member of the fire department wishing to speak? We have a chief with us. Oh, hi, Chief. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. President. Councilors, just to go on the record as a proponent of this project, as you can see, we're all very excited about it. We're present here this evening, and we look forward to expediting this and not wasting any time, and it's very important to public safety going forward in the city. Thank you.
Next regular meeting, Chief, is July 29th. We're going to go in summer session because people don't like to see the city business being conducted during the summer months. But we will work on this very quickly thereafter, and rest assured, this will be approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you guys for attending. Madam Clerk?
Calendar item number 4, hearing called as ordered on the application of 500 Ocean Avenue, LLC, care of Redgate, 265 Franklin Street, Boston, Mass., requesting a Chapter 148 license from the Revere City Council for above-ground storage of 10,225 gallons of gasoline contained within 409 vehicles to be parked in a parking garage at a residential apartment building at 500 Ocean Avenue.
Any proponents? Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Any proponents? Proponents mean speaking in favor.
Hi.
Hi. You're on.
Good afternoon, Counselor. Good afternoon, Counselors. Thank you very much.
State your name and address for the
Sure.
record,
It's
please.
Damian Zari. I'm with Redgate on behalf of 500 Ocean Avenue LLC, the proponent. We're here with our engineer, who I thought was going to speak, so my apologies for not getting up sooner. But I'm a proponent. The project itself, as many of you know, is under construction right now. We're going to be delivering the first phase of the project, which is 82 units, all of the amenity space, as well as the 2 restaurants that are going to be going there for September 1st, obviously barring no other changes that happen. The balance of the units are going to be delivered on January 15th, and we're going to be commencing our marketing process actually in the next 15 days or so.
Okay. Thank you. Any other proponents?
Mr. Chairman, my name is Robert O'Brien. I live at 10 Ocean Avenue. I'm Director of Economic Development for the City of Revere, and we stand very much in favor of the council approval of this petition. It's an important project, a timely project, and I think this approval is required to complete it, and we urge your prompt and positive action on it. Thank you.
Any other proponents wishing to speak in favor? Looking that side of the hearing, any opponents? Anyone speaking in opposition? Seeing none. Any city councilors? Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this project's on Ocean Ave. It's in my ward. And right now, it's being constructed at the Wonderland T Station, right next to the Markey Bridge. And the building's been going up for the last 9 months, and everybody can see it being done. And this is to just approve the parking garage segments of the facility. So it's something that they need to, in order to use the garage. So it's nothing that we've denied in the past, and it is a requirement that they have it. So hopefully we can vote on this tonight and move it along. Thank you.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one question. In the past, we've issued special permits, and we've had no stipulation in there as to whether or not residents would be required to park in the garage. As a result, we've got cars parking all over the boulevard and all over Ocean Avenue. And I'm just wondering if this is a condition that we can put in there, something that we can get an affirmative answer from the developer on.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor, is there anyone in the audience who can answer that question? Mr. O'Brien?
Yes, this was approved as of right before those conditions were discussed. All of those conditions have been added to any variances since then, but this developer retrospectively has agreed to abide by all of those conditions voluntarily. You can make it a condition if you wish. They have already agreed to it, and it actually was part of the site plan review order of conditions. So I think we're pretty well covered on that, Councilor.
Can we get that information to the clerk? So the clerk can add that to the conditions of the request?
By all means.
That a new ordinance be accepted at this location? They're going to accept our new resident parking requirements at that location?
Yeah, there is also no resident parking stickers being issued to any of these projects which have on-site garage facilities. So that will eliminate the parking on Ocean Avenue. There's been a problem with Vanguard, which has also since agreed to abide by all of these conditions.
Thank you for the update. Any other Councilor Keefe?
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. O'Brien, just for some clarity, and that's great. I'm glad that they were voluntarily doing that. That makes me happy. Would this also eliminate them? There would be no additional charges for parking included in the leases?
That's correct.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Whereas this is an ongoing, and it's really late venture into the project, I think we should take this up for vote tonight. And it shall the City Council grant a Chapter 148 license for A409 vehicle parking garage associated with a residential apartment building to be located at 500 Ocean Avenue. A roll call is in order.
On the roll call, Councilor Janino.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo? No. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the Chapter 148 license is approved.
Mr. President, suspension of rules.
We're already in the suspension.
We're already on the suspension. We never went back. Thank you. Can we have a vote for hoping it will not prevail?
On the motion, hopes reconsideration does not prevail. All in favor? Opposed? Reconsideration does not prevail. Madam Clerk?
Calendar item number 5 is the Legislative Affairs Subcommittee report.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we held our Legislative Affairs Subcommittee, and we took up 2 issues, one being an ordinance amending the Senior Work-Off Abatement Program relative to eligibility. That was voted favorably by the entire council. Just to, for edification of the viewing public, the changes would be taking the maximum income limits from $45,000 to $73,250 for a single individual, and from $55,000 annually to $89,500 for a married couple. And this would allow seniors to use that work-off credit for their water and sewer or their tax bill. And there's currently looking to be 50 on each program, so 100 seniors would benefit from this program. And from the Assessor's Office, they were very much in favor of this, as well as, again, like I mentioned, the council was in favor. So if we can vote on that tonight.
So we will vote on that right now,
Correct.
and you'll
Thank
take
you.
up your next matter from your legislative affairs.
Thank you.
Right after that. Madam Clerk? Audit on a second reading. Audit on a third and final reading. Roll call for engrossment and enjoyment. Shall the City Council approve an ordinance further amending the senior work-off property tax abatement program relative to the eligibility? Madam
On the
Clerk?
roll call for engrossment and ordainment, Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky is absent. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo? Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance is engrossed and ordained.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is an ordinance relative to the trash collection, and we took it up, and this was also voted on favorably from the subcommittee, with the exception we were amended it by taking out on page 7, section B, part 2. We took out that section, and the rest was approved unanimously.
On the report from the Legislative Affairs as amended, audit on a second reading, audit on a third and final reading, roll call for engrossment and ordainment. Shall the City Council approve an ordinance relative to trash collection? Roll call.
Roll call for engrossment and ordainment as amended. Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the ordinance is engrossed and ordained as amended.
Madam Clerk? Ways and Means Subcommittee Report, Chairman Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We had several items we took up this evening. First of which was calendar item number 7, 19-091, a loan order in the amount of $6,700,000 for Phase 10 construction project number 4487. It's our continuing work on our Department of Justice consent decree with respect to our water sewer system.
There are two separate roll call votes required. Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $6.7 million for CWSRF construction project number 4487? And the second, shall the City Council approve the resolution for CWSRF construction project number 4487?
Mr. President, for the record, it was voted out favorably unanimously in subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Roll call.
So the first one is on the loan order. Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the loan order has been approved. Now on the resolution for CWSRF number 4487, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved.
Chairman Rizzo?
Thank you, Mr. President. Calendar item number 8, 19-092, a loan order in the amount of $1.5 million for Phase 2 field investigations. Again, this is in conjunction with our consent decree, and it was voted unanimously out of committee favorably.
Two separate roll call votes are required. Shall the City Council approve a loan order in the amount of $1.5 million for CWSRF Planning Project number 4532? And the second being, shall the City Council approve the resolution for CWSRF Planning Project number 4532? Roll call.
The first is going to be on the loan order for $1.5 million. Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the loan order has been approved. Now on, for the resolution, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the resolution has been approved.
Chairman Rizzo?
Thank you, Mr. President. Calendar item number 9, 19-122. It's a communication from our city auditor relative to a free cash appropriation to our workers' compensation insurance fund. Again, that was to continue to fund, to pay obviously related costs to workers' compensation liabilities, and that was also approved unanimously in subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shall the City Council approve an appropriation in the amount of $400,000 from free cash to the Workers' Compensation Insurance Fund? Roll call is in order.
On the roll call, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the appropriation has been approved.
Chairman Rizzo?
Thank you, Mr. President. Calendar item number 10, 19-127. It's a communication from the city auditor relative to revolving funds under Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53, E and a half. This is basically just in coordination with the Massachusetts Modernization Act. It just sets maximum limits for all of our revolving accounts. And again, this was approved unanimously in subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shall the City Council approve the FY 2020 revolving fund schedule as reported by the City Auditor? Roll call.
On the roll, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, and Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the revolving fund schedule has been approved.
Chairman Rizzo.
Thank you, Mr. President. Calendar item number 1119-128 is a communication from the Director of Finance as it relates to a transfer request to the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund from the Water Sewer Enterprise Fund free cash account. This amount was $2 million, and it was approved unanimously in subcommittee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Shall the City Council approve an appropriation in the amount of $2 million from Water and Sewer free cash to the Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund? Roll call.
On the roll call, Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes, Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, and Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the appropriation has been approved.
So ordered. Mr. Chairman Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Calendar item number 19-129. This is a communication from the mayor relative to the City of Revere operating budget for fiscal year 2020. First off, I want to thank our department heads, along with my colleagues who were able to attend those meetings. Some attended all, some attended some, but I appreciate their attendance. It helped us meet a quorum, and you know, it's obviously we have to do it by statute, but it's always good to get together with our department heads and review their budgets and what their needs are with respect to their individual departments. So that's always a good process. The proposed budget was up 5.8%, 5.6% from last year, from $207,092,000 to $217,053. That's the grand total of all expenditures for the city. There was not an appetite to cut any items. I did propose one cut, and I believe, and the clerk can correct me if I'm wrong through you, Mr. President, I proposed a cut of $600,000 in our group health insurance account that would have reduced the amount of money that the city would have to pay, along with the amount of money that employees would have to pay for their health insurance. I think the increase was not commensurate with the increase in the budget. They went up 8.8% in 1 year, as opposed to what the budget itself went up. I thought it would be a fair number to go up what the budget went up. I proposed a cut of $600,000 in committee. That was voted down. I don't know if that has to go to the full council to adopt the budget with that cut in it, or if it died in subcommittee. So if I could have some clarification on that, Mr. President, that would be good.
I think it can go as submitted by the mayor because it was a minority report that was reported out of the subcommittee.
Okay, that's fine.
You can offer a motion at this particular time if you so wish.
I'm not sure if any councilors had the opportunity, not, who weren't here to vote on it. As I say, it was a budget that I thought that could have been a little bit different, but my colleagues wanted to approve it as is. So if you want to just report it out as is, I'll vote accordingly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And whereas pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 32, the mayor submitted a proposed budget for fiscal year 2020 to the City Council on June 3rd, 2019. And whereas the City Council held public hearings to consider the proposed budget. And whereas upon motion, the City Council accepted the budget as submitted by the mayor. Shall the City Council adopt and approve the budget for fiscal year 2020 in the sum of $203,390,333, which sum shall be appropriated and raised by taxation and other sources as presented? Roll call.
Point of inquiry.
State your point.
It's a question earlier. The chairman stated $217 million. and we're voting on 203, so
I can read you further. The following projected needs are costs to the city, but according to the Massachusetts general laws as promulgated by the Massachusetts Department of Revenue and not included in the appropriation order, is $13,662,809. So for the purpose of this budget, we're approving $203 million.
thank you for the clarification, Mr. President.
Roll call.
Roll call on the fiscal year 2020 budget as presented by the mayor. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? No. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the FY 2020 budget has been approved.
Thank you, councilors, for a great job in reviewing the budget sent before us. And again, Mr. Chairman, I applaud you for the great job you did in presiding over those meetings. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
On to communications. Calendar item number 13, communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of MT Mayo Corp. as a licensed drain layer.
Chairwoman Jessica Janino.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the edification of the council, there are several communications that will be coming before the council this evening that the council president is giving me the leeway to speak on as chairwoman of the appointment subcommittee. So as these come up, I'll ask if there are any representatives here, mostly drain layers, to just come before the podium. So the first one is MT Mayo. If there's a representative. So typically, these would be seen before the appointment subcommittee, but since we're about to enter our summer recess, we don't want to hold up any appointments. So this is a new appointment. So I'll ask if there are any questions of my colleagues on the council. Seeing as...
State his name and address to the record, please. Hit the button.
Matthew Mayo.
And direct him to Chair.
Great. So this is a new appointment. I have no questions. I read the attachments in our full council packet. If there are no other councilors, I recommend we vote favorably. Councilor Novoselsky.
Thank you. To you, Mr. Mayo. Are you working on a new job in Revere?
Yes, it's 90 Ocean Ave.
90 Ocean Ave.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much.
If there are no other questions, I recommend we vote this favorably before the committee of the whole.
Madam Chairperson. Communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of LaMontagne Brothers, Inc. as a licensed drain layer.
There's a representative from LaMontagne. And you can just state your name and address for the record.
Benjamin LaMountain, Oxford, Mass.
Thank you. Are there any, this is a reappointment, so are there any questions from the council? Seeing as there are none, these are just a reappointment. I went through the paperwork and everything is in order. I'll recommend that this is voted favorably before the committee of the whole. Thank you. And thank you both for taking the time to appear before us.
Communication from the mayor relative to the reappointment of Tufts Construction as a licensed drain layer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Is there anyone from Tufts Construction here this evening? Seeing as there are none, I ask that we keep that in committee, and we'll vote out the other two favorably.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Voice.
Calendar item number 16, communication from the mayor relative to the Revere Police Superiors Association Memorandum of Agreement. Councilor Janino is being recorded as recused from discussion on this matter.
Shall the City Council approve the appropriation necessary to fund the memorandum of agreement between the City of Revere and the Revere Police Superiors Association covering the period of July 1st, 2018 through June 30th, 2021? Roll call.
Councilor Janino is recused. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Is absent. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. That fails.
Fails.
You need 8.
Madam Clerk, on 13, 14, 15, I think we need to have a yes vote on it, voice vote. We did. This is calendar item number 16. Calendar item number 16. Everyone, yeah, waiting for your vote.
Yes.
Councilor Rizzo is voting yes on this is for the Superior Officers Memorandum of Agreement. The appropriation is passed at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Yeah, revert back to 13, 14, 15, just in case we missed it. All in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Those are your appointments in the subcommittee. Calendar number 17.
Calendar item number 17, communication from the Director of Finance as it relates to the approval of the water and sewer rates for fiscal year 2020.
Shall the City Council establish a rate of $3.91 per cubic 100 cubic feet for residential owners and $6.48 per 100 cubic feet for commercial owners, effective for billings as of July 1st, 2019. Roll call is in order.
This is on the water rates. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the water rate has been established.
So ordered.
Calendar item number 18, communication from the city auditor relative to the FY19 year-end transfers and free cash appropriations.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. President, I've had a chance to look at these transfers, and while I wish we had them in advance, you know, I don't think anybody likes to have their back up against the wall with these type of things, but in the interest of the city's financial stability, at least with regards to the Department of Revenue, normally this is something that would be sent to my committee, but I would not have a problem voting these transfers this evening if it was okay with the rest of City Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate your support for it. We will vote on it this evening. We have 3 separate roll call votes in order. The first shall the City Council approve the 2019 fiscal year-end transfers as reported by the City Auditor. The second is, shall the City Council approve an appropriation in the amount of $143,000 from free cash to Retirement Contribution Fund pension account. And third, shall the City Council approve an appropriation in the amount of $335,000 from free cash to the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund. Madam Clerk?
So this is on the first motion. This is for the end-of-year transfers for FY19. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. The end-of-year transfers have been approved. This is for the free cash transfer to the retirement contributory pension account in the amount of $143,000. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, that transfer has been approved. On the third motion, this is for the appropriation from free cash to the Solid Waste Enterprise Fund in the amount of $335,000. Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, that appropriation has been approved.
Madam Clerk?
Calendar item number 19, communication from the Director of Finance as it relates to the approval of the City of Revere Financial Policies Manual.
This is just a housekeeping, Mr. Chairman. Shall the City Council adopt the City of Revere, Massachusetts Financial Management Guidelines dated July 2019? Roll call.
Roll call, on the roll call, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Counsel President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, that's been approved, or adopted. Excuse me.
Calendar item number 20.
Calendar item number 20, communication from the Director of Finance as it relates to the approval of the OPEB trust fund investment policies.
Again, Mr. Chairman of Ways and Means, this is just a manual item. Roll call is in order. Shall the City Council adopt the other post-employment OPEB trust fund investment policies?
Roll call on the adoption, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Counsel President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the policies have been adopted. Calendar item number 21, communication from the Director of Finance as it relates to the approval of the OPEB trust fund agreement.
Same thing, Mr. Chairman. Shall the City Council approve the other post-employment trust fund agreement? Roll call.
Roll call on the agreement, Counselor Janino? Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Counsel President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the agreement has been approved.
Calendar minute 22.
Calendar item number 22, communication from the Director of Finance as it relates to the approval of motions governing the other post-employment benefits trust fund.
This is just verbiage on those motions. It's 3 separate roll calls, votes, that the trustee OPEB Fund Board of Trustees of the OPEB Fund established under Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, Section 20, is authorized to employ reputable and knowledgeable investment consultants to assist in determining an appropriate investments and pay for those services from the OPEB Fund. Secondly, the custodian trustee OPEB Fund Board of Trustees of the OPEB Fund established under Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, Section 20, be authorized to invest monies in the OPEB Fund pursuant to the Prudent Investor Rule established in Mass General Law, Chapter 203C. And thirdly, that the Board of Trustees of the OPEB Fund established under MG Mass General Laws, Chapter 32B, Section 20, is authorized to employ reputable and knowledgeable investment consultants to assist in determining and appropriate funds, investments, and pay for those services from the OPEB Fund. Roll call.
Roll call on the first motion, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Counsel President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, that motion has been approved. On the second motion, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo? Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Counsel President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, that motion has been approved. On the third and final motion, Counselor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch? is absent. Counselor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo? Yes. Counselor Rotundo is absent. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Counsel President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes. That motion has been approved. Calendar item number 23, communication from the mayor relative to the Kaboom grant application for the renovation of the playground behind the Paul Revere School.
With the permission of Chairman Rizzo, he's allowing this to go forward on a vote this evening at a request that I made of him, and it reads as follows. Shall the City Council approve an appropriation in the amount of $68,335 from the Capital Improvement Stabilization Fund to the Consiglio dello Russo Park account? This is for the park in the rear of the Paul Revere School, for those in attendance who don't know what that is and those at home. Roll call is in order.
On the appropriation, Councilor Janino?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch is absent. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo? Yes. Councilor Rotundo is absent. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Guanasso?
Yes.
Yes, the appropriation has been approved.
Calendar item number 24 has already been taken.
Calendar item
Motions.
number 25, motion presented by Councilor Guanasso that the mayor request the Traffic Commission to review the speed limit on Rumney Road from Broadway to Patriot Parkway and lower the limit to 20 miles per hour in the interest of public safety.
This request, councilors, if I may speak from the chair, this is a very brief request. It comes from constituents live on Rumney Road that, as you all know, that's a major thoroughfare in our community, and the speed that's going through there after we nicely took it within our wisdom to repave it, it became a speedway. And so unfortunately, we have to come up with this request in the interest of public safety. So I ask that we all vote in favor of this. Thank you. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 26, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the mayor update the council on any legal proceeding the City of Revere is taking on the 2 employees on administrative leave without pay and whether or not these employees have been terminated.
Councilor Rotundo's asked me if the city council would approve this in his absence. The wish of the council? All in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 27, motion presented by Councilor Keefe that the mayor request the Parking Department and the Traffic Commission to update the City Council on the implementation and/or next steps in relation to the new residential permit parking program.
Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Mr. President. This speaks for itself. I did speak to Mr. Rose, and he told me that he'd be happy to come up in front of the council and update us on the eventual implementation and the steps needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 28, motion presented by Councilor Powers that the mayor request National Grid to clean the right-of-way owned by National Grid that runs behind 40 Arcadia Street south to the Eastern County ditch.
Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, this is an area that has become inundated with nothing but people dumping trash, construction material, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's very clear that National Grid should clean that area up and then put a fence there or a gate or something to make sure that people cannot get in and out of there. Because I was down there the other day and, you know, I'm very unhappy with what I saw. So I would like the mayor to send a letter to National Grid, and I'd like that letter CC'd to the inspectional services to make sure that it's followed through. And I would expect it to be done right this spring. It's this summer. It's a nice time to do it and get it done, and they can have a clear sight of what's down there. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 29, motion presented by Councilor Rizzo that the mayor request L. Baker, along with the city's consultant, to appear before the City Council to provide a status report relative to the Community Resiliency Building workshops.
Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Basically, as some of you may know, back in February, Speaker DeLeo announced a very aggressive package, $1.3 billion in grants to vulnerable communities like ours to create a community resiliency plan that helps us ward off climate change. And We certainly don't want to be left behind in that. We want to get every dollar we can as a community that rightfully deserves it. We're seeing now, I just happened to be down on Pearl Ave recently over the last few days, and I'm sure Councilor McKenna can attest to this because she's been dealing with it during her tenure as the Ward 1 councilor down there. Those people have experienced storms like they've never seen before. So whether or not we could argue what it's called, global warming, climate change, storms are getting more and more strong. And so we need to do whatever we can to further protect our residents who live in those low-lying areas, flood-prone areas. I think of, like people on, in the Riverside, people in the Point of Pines, people in Beachmont that are, of course, there's areas in the middle of the city that are in low-lying areas that are subject to, rising tides and tidal influence and things like that. So I just wanted to get an update as to where we are. I would imagine the city has retained a consultant or is using some sort of a consultant to put our recommendations together in conjunction with neighborhoods who want to weigh in, what they might want to see in their areas. I mean, the Riverside may want to see some sort of revetment project similar to what we did years ago in Beachmont. Maybe people in Beachmont want to see a higher seawall. I mean, I don't know what the answers are, but I do know that if we don't get ahead of this and certainly take advantage of the $1.3 billion that Speaker DeLeo has been such a staunch proponent for, then we're going to miss out. So I just want to get an update where we're at and make sure that all the timelines and all the information we need to submit our report to get our share of those funds to protect our low-lying areas and residents who are prone to flooding, that we do everything we can to make sure that we protect them. I mean, I think back to the most recent storm down in Beachmont. I think there were 20 vehicles that were lost. People, their homes who never flooded before now have floods. And these 100-year storms we know are now every 5-year storms. So something needs to be done, and I just want to make sure we're on top of it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rizzo. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Mr. President. That is an excellent suggestion by Councilor Rizzo. I've been down there. Last year, we had both the North Shore Road, which is 1A, and the Boulevard simultaneously shut down because of flooding. It was almost impossible to get an emergency apparatus down there. And I think this is something we have to move on right away. We can't just sit back and say, well, the Army Corps of Engineers is going to do it, or this outfit's going to do it, or that outfit's going to do it. We have to take the action right here, because it is getting worse, and it's impossible now to get down there when you have a major storm. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Mr. President. So yes, thank you, Councilor Rizzo, for bringing this up. Pearl Ave is faced with the marsh being flooded now. It's a constant flood, and also the ocean. So they're inundated with both entities of water. So yes, we do have to do something. There's no drainage down there for the water to go. So we really do have to do some reconstruction on those streets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other councilors wish to speak? Madam Clerk? On the motion, all in favor, all opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 30, motion presented by Councilor Rizzo, that the mayor request the Director of Inspectional Services to appear before the City Council to discuss the mosquito control plan for this coming summer.
Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I received a call and a couple of pictures of, unfortunately, poor kids that had these pretty significant mosquito bites already. And we know all the rain we've been getting. We know we're going to have a very tough season with respect to mosquitoes. And, you know, the concern above and beyond, obviously, just getting mosquito bites is the diseases that possibly could be, that they could be prone to. We certainly don't want anybody to be subjected to West Nile or anything like that. So I know last year, particularly at the tail end of the year, there was a lot of complaints from parents at both soccer fields and Little League fields that the mosquitoes were out of control. And if last year is any indication of this year, it's going to be even worse. So we need to get a handle on this right away. I hope Northeast Mosquito Control can maybe get with inspectional services so we have a definite plan on how we're going to keep all of our fields, not just, all of our fields where kids are playing, keep them safe, and obviously, you have, from the perspective of the spectators, keep the parents and other spectators safe as well. So that would be very helpful, I think, if we could hear from our director and make sure that there's a plan in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Council. I really think it's a great motion based on the fact that Ward 3 is all around marsh, and these mosquitoes this year are coming out like torpedoes. They are big, and so we have to do a plan of attack as soon as possible to get this enforced because, the kids can't go out and play, and even the adults can't go out and enjoy the walking in the evening because there's so many mosquitoes, and it's quite dangerous. Seeing and hearing, Councilor Janino.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to take one moment for a point of personal privilege.
State your point.
This past week, one of our colleagues celebrated a birthday, and I want to take a moment to wish our council president a very happy belated birthday.
How old are you?
42. You're so nice to me. I owe you. So prior to that great announcement, the City Council will stand adjourned until Monday, July 29th. Have a happy and safe, mosquito-free summer. We meet in a month from now or more, based on the fact that the practice of doing city business while people are on vacation was never well accepted in the community, and this tradition goes back forever and a day, and I think it's a great one, that we do not conduct business. But the City Council will still be here to service you every day of the week, and just call us if there's a need, because we'll be glad to service that. Again, to my colleagues, thank you. Have a happy and safe summer.